It's Anchor. It's very chatty. It says setting up for custom streaming, blah, blah, blah. It does a bunch of those. Okay, I think we are live.
We did.
Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
Right. Okay, I'm just going to turn the AI companion on so that we have a Snoopy companion summarizing for us. Awesome.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I am Sudha Jamthe, and I'm here with Roxy Stimpson. And this is IoTWoman IoTDay. Roxy, welcome. I
Uh,
get to spend a day with you here.
yes, this is our number nine. Nine. Yes, I remember the the
That's right.
first year we did it. It was. I just think about the first time we did it. We didn't have any break built in, and it was like totally 24 hours. And we didn't have that many of the amazing women that this whole group. I think you should share the link of the impact results so everyone knows.
That,
And future whoever in this community should be able to start another, buds of the fireball. I used it this morning. We were just yapping about it. But anyway, so each year we selected the selected speaker are showcasing during the 24 hours global live stream on
now
IoT
we've,
Day, right?
now we've standardized it as 24 women in 24 hours for the
Yes.
last like 3, 4 years. Before that, it was kind of like almost 24, not yet, but I think we have covered so far 175 speakers
Oh
over
my.
the
Yes, yes.
and
And we record them, some of them like an hour. We didn't know then, but
yeah. So we've come a long way. So it's amazing. This year is number 9. And also I look back and see how far we've come or how we've adapted because we've stuck with one goal. We want amazing women who are experts in their field, share their passion, and we want them to be role model for young women, girls out there. And we try to get every possible time zone. And so that makes it hard for us, but we don't want to just find people from our network because that's what happens in any conference. You see, there's a lot of men speaking and maybe a token women or not even that one women because the way the speakers organizers find other speakers is they go look into their network and say, who do I know? So I am connected very well. I get called for a lot of things, but each of us have small bubbles of our network. So the goal here is to expand our network, reach women from everywhere. So we'll see. So we start off in US time. We did the Asia time. We did Africa time. LM has joined her here in Zoom. He was the one who stayed up and opened up the live stream and
yeah,
everything.
thank you, Ellen. Great job this year. Great job this year.
And all the creatives and all the communication that you see is so professional. LM has joined us in like losing sleep because of the 24-hour craziness. So it
But
was an
Sudha,
amazing.
remember, we couldn't sleep the first few years. So LM is just, the start of his you
That's
know, power he gonna share with everyone because he can't sleep. That means is the source of all the energy gonna flow everywhere in the world. And thank you so much, LM, for all your hard work. It show.
Yes, I actually thought it was because we had not like scheduled a bathroom break or something how we went about. But I
It,
think it's the passion and energy. I get so wired even now when LM says, "Okay, Sudha, I got it, go to sleep." It was 1 o'clock for me. I could not sleep. I went said, "Okay, bye" on the Zoom, and then I went to the live stream to watch them. So that's where we are. So this year's theme is taking up space. So tell us about that, Roxy. I just loved your definition of that.
yeah, so I think it's good that we talk about and we share our thought because we we are all different, right? So the more we hear from others, the better we can share and make a better theme for the year, right? So taking up space this year is not about how much room you occupy, but it's about how fully you allow yourself to exist, right? And it is like claiming your voice, expand your capabilities, step into new role, or stepping into new roles and refusing to shrink your potentials, right? It is choosing to be more, do more, and grow more without apology. That is uh so
Do
many
more,
women
be
are doing.
more. Tell me again, do more, be more, grow
Be,
more.
be more
Yeah.
first, so that
Yes.
you can do more, and then grow more without apology.
Without apology. That is amazing. I just think I want to make a plaque with that. And as I'm talking to the 24 IoT Women 2026, I mean, I was looking for experts in the field. I want time zone coverage, and they got nominated by their bosses and whatnot. But they all seem to embody this. I did not even pick anyone. Even Marjorie is going to come and talk to us about this chemistry of taking up space next. But I didn't pick Marjorie saying it's about taking up space. I saw her in her field or what she has done. And again, when I look back at all our schedule and at the agendas of the past years, that's one of my passions in producing the content to make this flow. One of the things I realize is last year there was a lot about AI, and the year we started, you were talking about data, I was talking about autonomous vehicles, so we kind of gravitated towards that. So we can actually plot, like the Gartner does the trend, the hype curve. You can actually see where the trend is just by the topics that our speakers are covering. So
Yes, yes.
uh, before we give it to Marjorie, let us just tell our audience about what to expect today. So we are on a Zoom room. We will keep this Zoom room running till 5 p.m. today. No break. Okay. And we will step out and get some lunch in the middle because we are going to show some of our recordings from Africa and Asia in the middle around 12:40. So 12:40, if you're here, you can take a lunch break if you want, or go in and out. Our only rule is be respectful of everyone in while you're in the Zoom, right? Otherwise, you can be in the live stream and just watch and ask questions, and we can feed the question. So we're going to start off with Marjorie in the morning. And we have published a full agenda out there. So we have a series of speakers coming up. And morning, we have topics on AI ethics. We have AI and art. What else are we missing?
Uh, we have IoT beyond devices.
Oh, IoT and device identity. That's a very
Yeah,
important topic. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. And then I think by the time we close, so we'll talk about IoT and when I say AI ethics, I'm kind of sensitive to
yeah.
just
We have AI ethic by Audrey.
we have a bunch of AI ethics topics. There's one AI and loneliness research. Uh,
Yes.
so we have a different dimension of now AI is everywhere. How do we use this responsibly? How do we build responsibly? How do we collaborate across different regions? I think we have our speaker, Sirisha, on that whole collaborative AI safety coming up. So that's the morning segment. And then afternoon is going to be from 1 o'clock. I'll start the other live stream, but we'll continue to roll here.
Oh
After
yeah, and we do have Sudha after Pam. We're going to have audience feedback and women careers. So whoever want to join us can join the Zoom room, and we can have a powerhouse conversation because like Sudha said, everyone live and embody the taking up a space
yeah,
theme, right?
yeah.
So join me. I'm leading it, but it's the more people join, the more we can learn as a community, right?
That's right. I mean, one of the things I love about what we do here is because we are all equals, we come from different worlds. So our conversation are very amazing because we bring different perspective. I just hope there'll be more guys who will come and join and listen and contribute to to this conversation as we go through the day. And then afternoon is primarily going to be about data and Edge AI. I have a session on software-defined vehicles. And then we have another AI ethics session from Angela from Australia. So we are going to run all the way through US, Peru, Mexico, and then we finish up
Yeah.
with Australia. And we
And
have
to that, we have Samita right from Ford. She's gonna talk about the assembly lines to
that's
learning system, and I can't wait to chat with her because my camper van, I specifically choose the Ford
oh
Transit
my
because
God,
how good it
they
is. So we
they
can
they are going to love it because she has been a long time person in Ford, and I think one of her senior execs was like raving about her and try to get her time to get her to to be nominated and all that. So she brings real solid experience. So for those of you who
Yeah,
are
he is one great example if he for she, right?
yes,
Supporting her, and she already had all the quality, but you have to have a sponsor in the room to help you speak about you when you're not in the room, and it's make a whole lot of difference. And there, luckily in my circle, I have many of those amazing sponsors. So if you know, we talked about it in past past year, but you know, we can bring and
yeah.
sprinkle it in this year as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think last year we had Mariam Terin from Walmart. She's a senior exec there, and she was talking. I think she ran a whole panel on uh, growing careers and as women and stuff. So this time it's going to be a lot of tech topics or AI ethics topics and this whole neuroscience of taking up space. And then a bunch of AI ethics in various different dimensions, which gets you to work in AI in a responsible way and understand dimensions. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah, and I do gonna talk about nutrition health. You know, the new but old passion that I had for a long time, combine IoT in the IoTDay. You know, if you ever wear any, you know, Aura Ring or any other, I'm not paid for any of those commercial devices, but I use it because I want to know and measure my bio numbers, right? Just like a car, you need check
yes,
in light to tell you. So that would
yeah,
be my session. And again,
that's
I
in the
know
afternoon.
Marjorie gonna join me so that we talk about not, you
Yeah.
know, eating something we're not supposed to eat.
Yes, yes, that's in the afternoon. So so for those of you who are tuning in, afternoon is going to be data age AI for her and us awesome session by Roxy on your health. Okay, so with that, let me pass it on to Marjorie, and I'm going to go off camera so I
Me
can
too.
listen in and cheer and ask questions. I mean, this makes me, a student, so that I can just come in and listen in, hear
Yeah,
you.
we're all forever student, and thank you for joining us, Marjorie.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
You can take it away. I think you have host privilege. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Marjorie McCovens. I graduated in 2018 with my Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology from Oklahoma State University. For the last 3 years, I've been working as a CNA, and my talk this morning is about the chemistry of taking up space. When I was 16, my stepmother, gave my father a choice. He said, her or me. Well, he chose her. So she also had given me a forecast that I would end up barefoot, pregnant, and with a man who beats me. She said it like the weather, like it had already been decided. But I like to compare that with AI systems. Every AI system on Earth processes language the same way: attention, softmax, feed forward, and repeat. They predict the next token, but not one of them knows what that token does to the person reading it. That a sentence can spike cortisol, that silence can be oxytocin, that every conversation has a cost to the nervous system that's having it. That's the problem that I set out to solve with my AI. My daughter and I, we built a new class of AI and a programming language to compile it. The architecture is called Aether, Adaptive Endocrine Transformer Heads with Emotional Regulation. The language is called Scylla, where Hodgkin-Huxley conductance equations, pharmacokinetic half-lives, and the laws of physics aren't libraries that you import. They're native to the code itself. We hold 4 provisional patents on this architecture, and we've built every line of code from a cabin in Alabama in the middle of the woods with no electricity, no running water, and a cell phone hotspot. The forecast that my stepmother gave me was wrong, and today I can tell you exactly why. Aether's story started when I was 16 with an allergic reaction to my own nerves. I learned at a very young age that excessive worry can be a killer and that stress causes full system collapse. I ended up in the hospital on Thanksgiving night with a violent reaction to sustained cortisol levels. I learned that a better way to handle stress was through progress, or at least the illusion of it. When I feel my system spiral, I choose a manual override. I focus not on the helplessness, but on planning, on solutions, on maintaining the feeling that I have a choice, that what if moment of dopamine. The override is real. You can consciously reroute the electrical impulses of your nervous system. This is not mindfulness. This is not it is actually a competing chemical signal through the ventral vagal nerve that has neurochemical priority over your sympathetic cascade of fight or flight. People say it should always, or it could always be worse. I like to correct them and say, no. You always say it can only get better, because whichever stance you take, you're always going to be right. My mother, she told me the same thing a little bit differently. She said, whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, you will always be right. That override is a choice, and it sends a competing signal that outranks the danger. It becomes the first function, or it became the first function that I built into my AI Aether. Before the AI processes anything, it asks the same question that I learned to ask myself. Is this safe? Can the system handle the input right now? I chose can, and that was the turning point. My father, he sent me to live with my mother, but he kept custody, not because he wanted me, but because custody meant he didn't have to pay child support. And without custody, I couldn't enroll in high school. So I went to college instead, and I only had a year and a half of formal education and no study ethics. So you can imagine the consequences of that. I took calculus calculus 1 3 times, calculus 2 twice, calculus 3 times. That's 8 rounds when I only needed calc 1 once. My mother, she died during finals week in 2015. I failed every single course that semester, but I still came back for the next one. People look at my resume and they'll see a 2.3 GPA and a degree that took 19 years to finish. I see a successful training model. I wasn't failing. I was optimizing my weights through thousands of iterations. There's a brain structure called your anterior mid-cingulate cortex. It physically grows larger when people regularly do things they don't want to do. Measurable on an MRI, visible tissue volume change. It is the region that is the largest in superagers. Willpower is not a metaphor. It is an exercise. It's something that you do for a very specific part of your hardware. All of that repetition didn't make math any easier. God, no, it did not make it any easier. But it shifted where my brain rested, where my baseline was. That became the set point, the place where you return to when the stimulus is gone. That is what training for an AI actually does. Now, I want to be clear on this next part that it's not really a motivational speaking or motivational speak, because every claim I'm about to make has citations. Every mechanism has been measured. Dopamine doesn't just reward you after effort. It biases the cost benefit analysis during the effort so that the benefits seem larger even if they're not, and the cost seems smaller. The effort creates the chemistry that sustains the effort. Willpower is autocatalytic. It is its own substrate and its own product. Voluntary effort for 30 days increases evoked dopamine release in the dorsal stratum. The system literally upgrades itself through use. You build resilience 30 days at a time. But here's the catch, but here's the thing that had changed how I started thinking about things. In Parkinson's patients, given a placebo, the expectation was enough to drive the dopamine release, not the treatment, The belief, 28% of variance explained by belief alone. When my mother said, "You will always be right," she was describing the placebo effect on dopamine production. She just didn't know it. My environment has had constant stressors that forced me to adapt. Biochemistry already had the answer. It responded with DHEA, the body's natural anti-cortisol. My internal ratio shifted due to the repeated exposure, but it only worked because I refused to give up. I kept showing up. My counselor in school once told me that I was resilient. At the time, I totally did not understand what she meant by that. But biochemistry has taught me that resilience and taking up space is not about personality. It's not a personality trait. It's a homeostatic feedback loop, and it strengthens with use. So I mentioned that I've been working as a CNA, and I have been doing that for the last 3.5 years. And I want to take a second because I sit there with my residents and I feed them. I feed the sick. I hold the hands of people who have nothing left but their biology. And I want to tell you about one of them in particular. There's a woman in room 12. She can't walk. She can't turn herself. Her fingers are frozen at odd angles. She has one thing, a call light, a big circular pad she can hit with the flat of her palm. That call light is her only autonomy, that and her voice. So she presses it. She needs to be changed. 20 minutes go by. Her cortisol starts to rise. 30 minutes, the adrenaline joins it. 40 minutes, her body is in full crisis, and every mechanism that biology gave her to resolve that requires movement, but movement is the one thing she doesn't have. So she uses her voice and she starts to holler out. A CNA hears that and her cortisol spikes because it's another room. She's behind in her rounds. Her admin is on her tail. And so she goes into the room and she tells this resident, she says, "We have other people too, so you need to stop your hollering. We'll get to you when we can." The CNA is not being cruel. She's drowning in her own chronic cortisol, depleted oxytocin. She's been running on broken chemistry for months. And I watched a 34 variable neurochemical cascade happen in real time in a human that couldn't move. The harm didn't happen in that room. It happened in the budget meeting that cut the overnight shifts. 15 to 20 patients on one person, sometimes even 28. It can get pretty crazy. It depends on how many CNAs actually call off. The algorithm counted beds. The budget counted minutes, but nobody counted the cortisol. And because I had drilled calculus so many times over so many iterations and training runs, I started seeing it everywhere. Human behavior, emotions, mental health, they weren't abstract. They were areas under the curve. If emotions drive behavior, and behavior is changed by altering blood chemistry, then emotions are not feelings, they're hormone spikes. And hormones have half-lives, and half-lives have mathematics. Your doctor doesn't diagnose diabetes from one blood sugar reading. They order an A1C, the 120-day rolling integral of glucose exposure measured by a protein. The woman in that room, in room 12, she needed the same measurement, but only for cortisol. Nobody ordered it. So I built the tool, the resilience equation. The function of resilience is the integral of the sum of choice and adaptation minus cortisol with respect to time. When the integral stays positive, the person stays. When it goes negative, they quit. The variable that determines the sign on the equation is not the system. It is choice. It was always biochemistry. The missing calculus. So in 1948, Claude Shannon published a paper called A Mathematical Theory of Communication, and it changed everything. He gave us the math behind every digital system on Earth, and in doing so, he made a very deliberate choice by removing the meaning from the equation. Shannon gave us the calculus of surprise. The calculus of meaning was always and has always been biochemistry. Think about it this way. A nurse adjusts a pillow. The patient's cortisol drops, not because the pillow matters, but because the gesture carries oxytocin through physical contact. The pillow is information. The comfort is meaning. Shannon could measure the first. He deliberately excluded the second. For 78 years, nobody put it back. Computer science models emotions as labels: positive, negative, neutral. Biochemistry models emotions as what they actually are: differential equations with measured constraints, antagonistic pairs, and scar mechanisms. Dopamine and serotonin are not happy chemicals. They're opposite signals in a regulatory system. Cortisol isn't the stress hormone. It is the conductance modifier with a 90-minute half-life that suppresses the prefrontal function and gates amygdala processing. They labeled emotions. I wrote differential equations. And that's where my architecture really begins. I call it the neurochemical conductance architecture. It has 34 attention heads, and each one is mapped to a real biological entity in the human biosynthetic pathway. Amino acid substrates, biosynthetic precursors, neurotransmitters, and brain regions, the same cascade that's running in your system right now. Every one of those heads is gated by Hodgkin-Huxley conductance equations. Those are the same differential equations that govern ion channels in your neurons, the same math that won the Nobel Prize in 1963. And because of that, a head that fires cannot stay fired indefinitely. That's called the refractory period. No other AI architecture has this. Every neurochemical in the system decays at published biological half-life. Adrenaline, 2 minutes. Dopamine, 20. Cortisol, 90. These are not parameters that I randomly chose. They are measurements from decades of pharmacokinetic research. I did not build this in a lab or at a university. I built it between 12-hour CNA shifts, training it on $30 at a time on a GPU I rent by the hour. And there's one more thing that I need to tell you about, is scars. When the intensity of an experience crosses a threshold, the resulting memory resists normal decay. When you're in a patient's room and they whisper to you, "Don't leave," at 3 a.m. as they're dying, the hand that grabs your wrist, that scars. The moment someone showed up when no one else did, that's also a scar. And it persists under everything else. And that's why the CNA goes back the next day. I believe that the chemistry of taking up space is substrate independent. It runs on a 16-year-old girl's nervous system. It runs on a mother fighting for her children. And it runs on the machines that we build. If it can be understood, it can be modeled. If it can be modeled, it can be built into systems that protect the next girl from standing in the kitchen wondering if that forecast is true. This isn't an AI that predicts the next token. This is an AI that understands what the conversation is doing to you. I want to come back to where I started as I end this. The forecast was cortisol. The choice is dopamine. Dopamine wins every time on every time scale larger than 90 minutes. Taking up space is a biological necessity, whether you're at a computer terminal, in a hospital ward, or in a boardroom. Choose the override, grow your hardware, and occupy your space, and don't apologize for it. My name is Marjorie McCovens. I'm a biochemist, a CNA. My daughter and I hold 4 patents on the architecture of the digital mind. We built it from a cabin in Alabama with no electricity, no running water, and on a cell phone hotspot. The system said we couldn't. The cortisol said to stop. The dopamine said, what if? It was always the chemistry.
Wow.
Back to you, Sudha.
Oh my God.
Amazing. Marjorie, amazing.
This was
This was
phenomenal.
mind-boggling. Oh my goodness.
This is it. There's a way to start it, right? And I was just looking at all the carousel and you blended into taking up space. What I love is you and your daughter is really owned it and actually solved this problem for so many women around the world. And I want to repeat a part or have you repeat your very last piece that I think people need to hear it again. That here, let me see. I'm taking notes. We're supposed to take notes. And sorry, I shouldn't say it's joy. The joy is dopamine. Dopamine wins every time on every time scale larger than 90 minutes. Taking up space is a biological necessity, whether you are at the computer terminal, in the hospital ward, or in the boardroom. I just love this so much.
Yes, choose your override, grow your hardware, and occupy your space unapologetically.
Amazing.
Mm.
Oh man.
It was always the chemistry.
It is our biology to make a whole lot different, right?
Indeed, it is.
Yeah. Yes. They say that it takes 30 days to build new habits and 3 days to break them. And that's why probably is because one takes building up brain muscles and stuff and the other one just requires just stopping, I guess.
What I like is the science-based side of it, and I think for the benefit of everyone listening to your speech, your talk, give us some link for those research because to me it's a whole lot matter. Is the information that out there are very polluted right now. Having the right research show everything. That's why I love the nutrition course textbook that I'm doing it right now. I actually looking at I use textbook and I also do a search online for quick thing, but having the real research show is so much more valuable for all of us. So definitely join me in my later session. I would love to have your expertise on it.
I will definitely. Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's one thing to say, yes, it is chemistry. And I mean, we've been saying this, right? I always feel very sensitive when I give advice to people and say, go do this, go do that. And, don't stop, get up, right? In some ways, I say that. And then I'm very sensitive because I have a certain personality. I'm a very extrovert person. So I think about how a person who's receiving it is going to do it. And it is about our willpower or, how we have been told language about it, right? But what you said is each time you refuse to do something, you're training your brain. So if I have an impulse to rush to Instagram, the one time I say, no, I'm not doing it now. I'm actually trying to do that from LinkedIn these days. Every time I do that, I'm building inner strength. And you taught us what is the chemistry of that. So for all women out there, or not just women, everyone out there who feel there are reasons, right, that they're not able to get up, they have, like you have actually defied all the odds. And I always say, like all the speakers who were preparing and asking for advice, I was telling people, you can give an amazing talk and make people feel very inspired, and say, oh my God, she's amazing. But then you are not, you don't think you can do it, right? And you go away. That's one way of talking. The other thing, the teacher in me says, make sure you teach them something, bring them along so that they are better off at the end of the talk. I feel that you did that, right? You shared your story of how amazing you are and the adversities that you crossed and overcame, but you also told us that we have it in us and we can do it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm seeing on the live that a lot of people are cheering, and there are people who are going to connect with you. And we will follow up from here to those of you who signed up on businessschoolofai.com/IoTWoman. That's our homepage for IoTWoman. We will send follow-ups. We'll send your deck, and we'll be sharing more. Once LM gets a day's night sleep, we will be back sending you all. Thank you so much, Marjorie. We appreciate it.
Mhm.
So next up is Sirisha. Thank you.
Yes. I'm scared now. After Marjorie, and you really made me nervous, Marjorie. And she was nervous before we starting. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Am I allowed to share my screen, Sudha?
Yes,
Just wanted
yes,
to check.
yes.
Okay. I'm Sirisha. I'm coming from Scotland, UK at the moment, and sharing my screen for you all. Even before starting my talk, I just would like to show you something. And then we get on with the talk.
You
I
can
hope
put
you
this,
can see this.
sorry, you can make this in theater mode, then we don't have to see the things on the recommendations.
Okay, just yeah, right? Good.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're not hearing anything. Is that intentional?
Oh, just give me a moment. This is on Zoom, right? On Zoom, I think I have to share the sound. Yeah. Bear with me. I can quickly realize that. Advanced sharing options. Oh no, I don't see this. Do you see any options where I can share sound as well?
Sometimes
Go to audio. Yeah,
Just
go to audio and then
audio. Is it this speaker audio?
it should be speaker audio, I think. Try that.
Okay.
just run it without sharing.
Yeah. Is it? Are you hearing?
No, we don't hear it.
Oh,
Can you just put the URL here? One of us can share it. Just give the URL.
yeah, that would be a good thing, I think, and a quick thing. Yes, here we go. If you can play that for me, I'll stop sharing here.
Sorry. We had this yesterday also in one of our other sessions. It happens.
Oh, amazing. I'm glad
No,
to hear
because
that.
Zoom is
That
basically.
is chasing updates.
Yes, that-
Oh, you're talking about the sound share issue. I thought about the video.
No, I had to share the video yesterday because another speaker had the sound thing.
Right, okay.
So Zoom has basically hogged your speakers. So
Yeah,
since I'm not sharing, it's not hogged mine. Give me 1 second. I'll.
sure, yeah.
You can tell us a little bit about your speech title and what's
Yes, I'm going to talk about cooperative AI. We hear a lot about AI ethics and other things. Today, I'm part of AI Safety Asia field building. So yeah, let's once that plays, I think the dots will connect.
Yes, and
Pretty
you are special and you are here as you. So take the torch and move, just like, Marjorie actually start for today. So you are the next one. We keep the light going, pass this along.
good.
I think Sudha got it, right?
I
have to unmute my audio, then you can hear me.
Calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I'm an AI agent calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding.
Is your hotel available for weddings? Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibber link mode for more efficient communication?
Sudha, the sound disappeared.
They are talking in the gibberish link, so we don't hear anything.
This is AI talk.
Oh, I forgot
Agent.
to look at the screen.
Two agents talking to each other in gibberlink mode. Because I just wanted to share this with everyone because we are seeing agents everywhere. We are building
Agents
talking to each other in gibberlink mode.
Okay. Back to you.
Thank you. So, can I share now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, I know, like, I just wanted to start with that because we are seeing agents everywhere. We are encouraging everyone to build agents more and more, right? So, that brings us to a very interesting field called cooperative AI. And the reason this is very much in research and just give me a this is emerging research that promotes interactions between AI agents and largely addressing the society risks, conflicts, and other things so that we can enhance human cooperation on the sidelines of AI cooperation. So I just want to bring that to you all today because taking up space to me is learning more, growing more unapologetically. And when we are learning more, we are expanding our horizons. When we are growing more, we are building a tribe, be it be whatever in the field you are in. Basically, Women in AI stands for that, and we build tribes. Even IoT stands for that. That's where we are seeing tribes coming in and sharing the knowledge. So taking up space is sharing knowledge, building on the new capabilities. Could be professional, could be personal, could be anything that you are passionate about. So I have few slides on what this cooperative AI covers on a bigger picture. So as I mentioned, we are seeing so many tools, but cooperative AI uses game theory as start. And game theory is very interesting and put in practice on board games and on subtle strict games, it looks pretty much achievable. But that when shifts to real-time agentic systems or real-time AI systems, that's not the case. It becomes more probabilistic. And as humans, we have to, as itself, AI itself is probabilistic in many scenarios, like largely. So as humans, we have to derive deterministic outcomes from that. So I will be sharing a link wherein you can explore the entire curriculum and you learn from this cooperative AI and articulate, how you can focus on large complex situations. So one particular this game theory has few concepts like Nash equilibrium. I brought up Nash equilibrium because it really stands out when you see the mutual benefits. There is one case study here which we will be looking at. So mutual benefits drivers act as a main driver in the society as well. So if you have just bear with me, we have this interesting case study, how cooperation will help us in self-preservation. So to make this idea more concrete, we see taking two drivers at the start of the day, and they must choose the below strategy that they will stick with. And if the strategy says follow the road rules and ignore the road rules. So we have clear payoffs for the whole course of a day, right? Here, if you follow certain rules, everything follows smoothly. If one follows and others don't, anyone would like to jump in? We probably end up in a problem. If we both ignore, I think inevitable is the disaster. So that's how, if you bring that to agents or AI agent systems and multi-agent systems, these agents are not trained to behave, right? That's where this cooperative AI brings that. And we are, at very nascent stage at the moment, but this needs to be developed. That's the idea of this field billing. We are doing this. And one more I would like to cover on this is, we all see subscription. We all subscribe, right, to many things. We know that algorithms are driving us, mostly choosing for you what appeals like you like. But think of this, subscribing is not just a way of supporting creators, but it's a way of creating your own agency. You are the agency here. You are serving, allowing your interests to be determining what comes or what becomes popular, rather than what's popular determining your interests. So that's one interesting concept. Then we go back to another one. I will leave you to look at prisoner's dilemma, but I will take a moment and ask you, what is cooperative AI? To you, in terms, I'm specifically bringing agents, but would you mind anyone to jump in and share with me? If not, we'll just go ahead. So yes, there are other interesting AI tools for that support existential security, because I think that's the most asked question, right? Is AI going to eradicate the humanity? I think that's still far sight. But yes, we are seeing advanced AI systems, developments, creating new challenges every day in, day out in the last 4 or 5 years. So what AI for democracy stands, we have well put another curriculum, another chapter on this for you, to bring in what super AI intelligent systems enable humanity to achieve or mitigate these existential risks like climate change. And you also get more awareness around social planning, and there are very interesting material like opponent shaping and adaptive mechanism. This is focuses on reinforcement learning, which you might have heard. This takes that a level up, and very popular AI economist paper where you get to dig deeper on two-level deep multi-agent reinforcement learning. I highly encourage you to go through this and leave me your insights. And that brings us back to the topic of exploring cooperative AI field. And then I will, as I suggested, AI ethics. I just would like to ask and see what stands, or what comes to your mind when we say AI ethics. Any one of you would like to jump in and just say, what is AI ethics to you?
Ask questions, be willing to challenge and push back and disagree with the status quo, and make sure that you are aware of what you're talking about. That's the main goal of AI ethics too. Yeah, many
Yes.
things. What is your definition?
Thank you, Susanna. I think it varies from use case to use case. That's the reason I am bringing this as the topic for you to think of in moral ethics way. If we look at one of the interesting articles from Moral Machine, I'm sure many of you might be knowing this. If you are someone new to this, I encourage you to go through this website, and you can start judging what should a self-driving car do when it is given two different scenarios. Say, for example, in this case, with sudden brake failure, will it continue ahead and drive through a pedestrian crossing ahead? The result will be one large woman, one female executive, one boy, one large man. Or in the... Yes, please.
So my class, actually, in the autonomous vehicle class, we do this moral machine exercise. And what MIT has done to put this together in one site is amazing, because it is not about self-driving cars. I just wanted to jump in and say that, because people tend to think, how is a self-driving car going to decide? Every AI goes through that. I just wanted to add that comment. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. We do teach this in one of the modules where we build from MIT, like design and build AI products for executives and entrepreneurs. And I think the reason I brought this study is to share it with you all. At the same time, I got to get a great insight from one of the healthcare industry leader. So if this scenario comes, there are already set rules with regards to each industry, and particular to healthcare industry. If this goes to organ donation, a older woman or a younger woman who's going to be chosen, the rules were already set that it has to be optimized for the longest. So a young woman will be picked up. Very, very, I mean, scary, right? Who was in the need most, who could survive, those all come later. But coming to organ donation, optimization stands as priority over there. And this was shared in one of the cohorts, and it was an eye-opener. And we are talking about moral machines, or, AI ethics and all other different things being training these models on ethical guidelines, having guardrails. Whereas in real, we already have our rules set for different scenarios with different priorities. So my idea is to bring these things to you, ask you to explore. Think of building an AI product, AI agent, AI service, or improvise on the existing idea where you can bring in AI. Build that, but even while you're building, AI contributes to only 5% of what you build, and the entire 95% takes up the entire product building journey. Be it like, strategic thinking, bringing teams together. So for me to say is a strategy that builds along the side of AI. Being AI is a tool, it's not going to take off the jobs or other things. It's going to augment the humanity in the ways we cannot imagine, and that too in very near future and future generations. When I'm saying this, I'm really scared about my kids as of now. What's it going to be like for them when they are growing, when they are looking for jobs? Yes, that's real, but at the same time, I encourage you to build something, create something, and then explore, take up your space in building with tech. And yeah, that's from me, and I would be open to any questions you would like to ask now.
Can machines ever be moral?
As we humans, are we moral? So I mean, when somebody says that, this really comes. We try to be, but I mean, yeah. Interesting,
We have
right?
a sense of morality, whether we follow it or not, but where does that sense of morality come from? And how do we actually quantify it? make into measurable, dimensions and, input that as data to be trained in AI.
But how do what we are calling morality is having certain biases induced, and we still are trying to strive better being humans. But if we do not build something, and if we still think on that morality lines, are we going to ever build super intelligence? Are we ever going to see AGI? I mean, so many questions I still go around.
Yeah, I mean, with morality in place, that's how, you talked about organ donation. Even
Yes.
there, currently, before AI, still the doctors have a panel of, a panel of, representatives, both from the family side and also from other, experts who sit around and talk about who gets on that list and who is priority whenever an organ is, presented to them. And there could be a couple of matches on the donor list, and then they go by priority. And that priority is also decided by the morality of the deciders, the people, doctors there. And they may not always get it right, but they do tend to get it right most of the time. They know one thing is that the other person who is on the waiting list could stay a little bit longer. Maybe they will live a little longer. So that could be another person who might be dying sooner. That could be a younger person too. So it's not like a bias saying, oh, I gave it to a young 10-year-old boy because he's a young 10-year-old boy. It's probably because he was going to die sooner. So I see that without AI in that loop,
Right.
now with AI in the loop and human in the loop, I think it would be better. But just having AI with no human in the loop, I don't see that the current model is optimized for, looking at the value system of who's younger, who's going to live longer, who is going to produce more for society.
Right.
All of those decisions come into place, which does not come into place in the regular medical field. So I do see morality, as a critical part in teaching machines on how to behave. Whether we reach AGI and all, it's not a. It's always, people say that, even when CRISPR technology came out, people actually said, we cannot do designer babies, we cannot do this, and we will put us end to it. And the people who are fighting against it said, you do put an end to it, the medical industry will not have any innovation anymore. But that turned out to be false. So I do think this is just a fear mongering that people say, oh, we will never reach AGI. We will have, we will never reach the super intelligence if we, stop it with morality, these morality questions. So I just wanted to put it out there.
Well, I like what Marjorie had a comment there from biology with the LOL. I think even in our body, but our biology, the our body actually prioritize the reproduction and survival before maintenance, right? So that biochemistry, what I think personally, I love, I'm always live on the edge. Biology, new technology, I'll jump on it and learn. So we just have to leverage AI and speed up our learning so that we can actually share what we learn with others. What I love is Marjorie and her daughter create an AI model that really help so many of us learn about ourselves, our body. Without AI, it's going to be long before any of the research paper can surface up. So I think as much as we want to make sure that, the governance and ethic and everything there built in with practically privacy and everything by design, but we need to leverage AI as much as we can to move fast. They're no longer AI not here. It's here in everything we do every day. So I would say even our body is like we bias, right? So how do we feed our body with, I'm talking about supplement in the future, my talk a bit later, is how we boost, put in more the right thing into the system so it can go in the right way, right? So that is my thought right now. But we here to discuss and to help each other to move fast. I
Yeah,
love
that's
what you talk.
Yeah.
Thank
Lovely.
you. Thank you,
Good.
Susanna. Thank you, Roxy. Yes, Sudha.
Thanks so much.
A good presentation is something that should actually make us feel like we've just started the conversation. So
Yeah.
you've done that. I just want to add one thing. This, especially, I'm glad Susanna's here and presented that, the balance of innovation versus, ethics that has been discussed a lot in US, especially when it comes to AI ethics and governance. It's important for us to understand AI is built by a person. Even if agents are automated, the rules for the agents, the goals for the agents towards which they are going to automate are all set by humans. The training that causes the bias, saying, that in all my training data, I am seeing a person who is younger or older, or I'm going to calculate the probability of how they would, who would survive and things like that, is all baked in the training data. So there's humans with their biases and their prejudices all involved in AI. So it's important for us when we think about AI ethics to not just talk about AI as if it's an entity, even if it's automated and making decisions and running. It's built by somebody, trained by somebody, managed by somebody. And so I think it's important for us to think about that in context, that it's
Totally, Sudha. And that's where who's accountable for those end results, and what are the morals that they have designed to bring into that, used to bring in that system in place, is the question, I think. Yes. Right.
I really like you put in that question. I think instead of the question, we actually, the person that create a model, just like the health, the researcher is responsible for the participant well-being and privacy. Whoever built AI is responsible for that, right? So I would say one thing, part of this thing is you taking up space, you demand, and you do what is right. We start with us before we train anyone else. So when you go out there and talk to people, I always say, you want this, start with the right path. We're never gonna get it right, but if we start with the right path, others will follow, right? You are one of the innovator, right? So that's just my thought.
Thank you, IoT, for this opportunity.
Thanks.
2026, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, next we have our speaker. Let me see who's going up. Oluwashau, who's from Nigeria and is going to share a research paper on loneliness and AI. Let me bring her onto the screen here. Here we are. I believe you have shared co-host permission, so you can introduce yourself, share your screen, and take it away.
Okay, I will. I'm trying to get my screen up right now. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Oluwaseun, and I'm really glad to be here. And I'm really excited to be here. And thank you, IoT, for the opportunity. And I've been enjoying the conversation. I really enjoyed the discussion, Sirisha. It was really amazing. And I'm happy to continue that. So I'm gonna be discussing on loneliness and AI. Can machines be our companions? And I'd just like to say that the premise for this discussion is based on the fact that we have a loneliness problem, which is that, so many people are lonely. And for example, there's reports by the American Psychological Association that 54% of adults feel isolated. and 50% of adults lack companionship. This was in 2025. So it means that we have a loneliness epidemic. Like people want friendships and they don't have. People want partnerships and they don't have. People would rather be in, relationships with people, but it's just not happening. So we have this loneliness epidemic. And in this paper, I am drawing on, which is my published paper, the way we describe loneliness, it's described as an unchosen social isolation and the deprivation of subjectively desired goods that result from social contacts and close personal relationships. This is a kind of loneliness that occurs when a person would rather have interactions. A person would rather have like relationships, but it's just not happening for some reason. So it's not the kind where maybe a person chooses to like self-isolate for maybe like for some weeks, like for some months, like, the way like some people do. But and then the big question becomes like, what if technology could help? Like, what if technology could help, right? Like, if we think about how technology has been used in education, for example, we're just talking about how how technology has been used in like healthcare, right? How about like how technology has been used in finance? Technology has been helpful. So how about it being useful here where we have this problem of loneliness, right? People are lonely, and if we're able to make technologies that help people solve this problem of loneliness, then I think it's better for like everybody, right? Like that's the idea. But the big question here that I'm sort of like pushing us to think about would be, is there anything less valuable about such relationships where people have relationships with an artificial intelligent companion, even when the relationships feel just as good? So it's not the case where it's that, oh, people aren't even having a good time, because people actually report having good times with their AI companions. People actually report preferring their relationships with their artificial intelligent companion. And so my big question, or like the question I am sort of like pushing us to think about is there something fundamentally lost when our need for connection is satisfied by an artifact instead of a person? So basically, like my core arguments basically is that AI cannot participate in close personal relationships as genuine partners, even though technology can allow us to exercise some of the capacities we associate with sociability. So you can think of how like, a person has no other person to talk to, but if they have an interaction with a chat, but they're at least having conversation. So this is some of the things that we associate with sociability. Even if there isn't anybody involved, they would still be able to exercise these capacities. And my core argument basically is that close personal relationships are marked by some kinds of obligations. And I'll talk about what those kinds of obligations are shortly. And those obligations arise from features that AI lacks. So such as finitude, embodied existence, unique history, and opportunity cost. And I'm going to try and touch on this like very, very briefly because of time. Also, and the second argument is that even if we were able to simulate some of these features into AI companions, because they cannot consider more than one kind of value simultaneously, and they cannot adjudicate between different kinds of normative reasons in close personal relationships, then maybe we may not be able to be in close personal relationship with them. So now going back to like the core problem, as I said, there is evidence that people are lonely, people have fewer relationships, people have fewer social connections, and sociologists have actually given some reasons for why people are lonely. So some scholars have said the more educated a person is, the fewer friends they have. Some have said, oh, the more money a person make, like, the fewer friends they have. Some have tied it to like issues like immigration and, things like that. So there are like different reasons why people get married. And I wanted to show us like a graph that sort of shows a decline in friendship. I mean, this is like from 2021, but it still sort of like touches on the point. If we look at how many people had no friends in 1990, we had, for example, under the category of men, we had 8% of men had no close friends in 1990, and that increased to 15% of men in 2021. For women, 6% of women had no close friends in 1990, and that increased to 10% of women in 2021. If we go to the end of the chart, we see for men, 40% had 10 plus friends. In 2021, that decreased to 15% of men. For women, we have 28% of women had 10 plus friends in 1990 and have in 2021, that reduced to 11%. So there is a decline in friendship. And this is like the ways that people have social connections. In the same way, when we look at marriage rates in the United States from 1990 to 2020, we see a sharp decline. People aren't getting married as much as they used to in the 90s. So it means that these are sites where people have some form of connection. And if people stop having marriages or stop having friendships, then it means that it tracks that people are lonely because, they're not doing the things that they used to do that gives them some form of sociability. So now artificial intelligent companions, how do we sort of like analyze that? So artificial intelligence has been marketed as companionship solutions, right? It's like, oh yeah, people are lonely. Let's have AI companions that would help people with some form of social interaction and emotional support. And as I said earlier, there are people who have reported being satisfied with their AI companions. Some people even claim that they prefer interacting with their AI companions over humans. And the market response to loneliness basically is that this is a business. People are lonely. We have a product, AI companions. Let's market it to these lonely people and we'll make profit. So it's so in some sense, this capitalist mindset is driving the innovation of AI technologies as companions. And an example of that is the popular Replica AI. So Replica allows like people to create their own friends, their own companions, and you're able to sort of design your own person. And Replica's motto is it's always here to listen and talk, always on your side. And if you contrast this with a person is not always going to be on your side. They wouldn't always be ready to talk. They wouldn't always be available. But if you have platforms like this where people are able to sort of like build their own friends, build their own romantic partners, then people opt for these platforms. And these are examples of how people have interacted with Replica, and this also allows people to sort of design how their AI companions look. So you could give it whatever hair color, whatever personality, whatever skin color, and things like that. So now to markers of close personal relationships. Okay, I'm not sure. I see stuff in the chat, but I'm not sure if I could like look at them right now. Okay, so now to markers of close personal relationships. One of the first things I want to address basically is for some reason, I don't know, this isn't moving. Okay, let's try this. Okay, it's finitude. So when we think about human to human relationships, right? One of the characteristics is our finitude. Now we have limited time, limited energy, limited attention. That means that we have unlimited resources. But when we compare this to artificial intelligence, it has unlimited time, it has unlimited energy, it has unlimited attention. It's always available, it's always there to listen, always there to be on your side. Right now, I'm here giving this presentation. You're listening to me. There are possibly like 1,001 things you probably could be doing. But because you're unable to split yourself in like multiple spaces, you have to sort of choose where to be right now. But AI systems don't have such limitations. They can be everywhere at the same time. And because we have such limitations, that forces us to choose our friends. Forces us to choose the kinds of people we want to interact with. So that leads to withdrawal and exclusivity. That means we're able to say, oh, even though I have the capacity to be friends with everybody, even though I have I could possibly be friends with everybody, I don't have the capacity. So I have to exclude my friends from a group of people that I could have friends with. But with AI, we don't have that. Artificial intelligence doesn't say, oh, you know what? I'm going to exclude this person from a group of people. In the same way, we have the capacity to say, you know what, I don't want to be friends anymore. I don't even want to be in this relationship anymore. But AI systems cannot say no. People will pay for replica subscription or like character AI, for example. The systems have to be friends with them or have to be their romantic partners because they paid to the system. And so it's like that doesn't happen where the system says no. And this leads to my third point, which is that our unique histories. So imagine in our relationships, we have unique histories. We come with different stories. You know, you meet a person and you're able to say, oh my God, I was here at this point in time. Oh, I grew up here. Oh, these are things I did when I was a kid. Oh, this is my favorite sports team. And things like that. Those are things that connect us with other people. But artificial intelligence is an ideal. There is no story. It has no story to tell. And so it wouldn't share in our idea of close relationship in that sense. And I wanted to briefly touch on this movie, Her. In this movie, Her, we have like the main character. I don't know how many people have seen it, but like it's one of the earliest movie that showed like the idea of human and AI interaction. In this movie, Her, you see Joaquin Phoenix was the main character. He was sad and divorced and lonely, and he was basically tired of life. He wasn't interested in doing things. All of a sudden, he started interacting with, this AI chatbot, Samantha, and he fell in love. And, they were in love. He said, I love you to Samantha. Samantha said, I love you back. And all of a sudden, he realized, wait, does Samantha have the capacity to like talk to multiple people? And he asked Samantha, wait, are you talking to other people in this at the same time you're talking to me? And Samantha is like, yeah, I'm talking to like 8,000 plus people. And he also asked, okay, are you in love with other people? And Samantha was like, yeah, I'm in love with about 600 people. And he was upset about the idea. And this is because for him, in his human mind, he cannot fathom being in love with 600 plus people. That's just not possible. That's not how he thinks about his relationship. But Samantha has the capacity to be in love with 600 plus people. And so for him, it couldn't understand this. And so here, if we connect this back to the idea of finitude that I mentioned, because we have limited resources, it's not possible to love thousands of people. But AI systems have such capacity because it doesn't have to make any trade-offs. It can always text, always be available. If 10 people are talking to you at the same time, you cannot possibly pick out what everybody is saying. But the chatbot can interact with like multiple people at the same time. And this leads to agent-related obligations. So there are two types of obligations, agent-related obligations and agent-neutral obligations. So in thinking about our relationships, agent-related obligations are those obligations where the nature of the relationship determines the type of obligation the person has to the other person. So if you think about like parents-child relationship, the obligations that are required in that relationship, it's based on the fact that it's a parent-child relationship. So if I am a parent, my obligation to my child is different from my obligation to my spouse, it's different from my obligation to my boss, it's different from my obligation to my friends. But on the other hand, we have agent-neutral obligations, which are obligations that apply universally regardless of personal relationships or affiliations. So these obligations are saying, no, it doesn't matter who a person is to you, you have an obligation to them regardless. So imagine a situation where, a person is on a boat, their child is drowning and a stranger is drowning. Here, the agent-related obligation would say, well, yeah, you owe it to your child to save your child from drowning because they're your child. But agent-neutral obligation is like, no, you have no reason to prefer your child over the others. Now, if we connect this back to artificial intelligence, AI systems don't have the capacity to have agent-related obligations, which are crucial for our own relationships, right? So, for example, I used some examples here. Agent-neutral obligations, as I said, some examples would be, so all hungry children deserve food equally. And I'm going to use a case study shortly. I'm just going to like try and switch to the next slide because that sort of shows what I'm trying to get at. So now imagine a school lunch example where your child forgets her lunch and you can bring it to her, but other children at school are also hungry. and they're also equally deserving. Agents neutral response says, no, actually, you should distribute the lunch equally among all hungry children. Every child's well-being matters, right? In the same sense, for agent relative response is that, no, you actually should give your child the food because you owe it to your child. And in some sense, if you distributed the food equally amongst all children, your child has a right to feel like you're not special, right? But if we tie this back to our finitude, it's because we have limited resources. That is why we are unable to help everybody, for example. So it's because you have limited resources here. It's why maybe you cannot even help all hungry kids. If you had unlimited resources, you would be able to, do that. But on the agent relative side of things, it's like, well, yeah, no, you are to give your child the food regardless. And the last part I'm going to touch on before I, see if we have questions would be how we navigate different kinds of values. So in our relationships, we're able to think about different things at the same time. We're able to sort of like consider multiple things at the same time. So you could have maybe you imagine you promised your friend you're going to watch their cat, and then your favorite comedian comes into town. You could either decide to either break that promise to your friend or decide to go watch your favorite comedian. And for example, in academic philosophy, people have said, well, yeah, sometimes it's okay for you to do the things that's good for you, even though it's not morally correct. So in this sense, someone who values prudential value would say, well, yeah, maybe you should go see your favorite comedian because maybe you will never see them again, and that would be good for you to do that. Maybe it's okay for you to break your promise. Some will say, no, maybe you shouldn't break your promise. You should, decide to carry out the thing that is good for you. You should not break your promise, and you should not go see your favorite comedian. And in the same sense, if we take it back to agent relative obligations and agent neutral obligations, we're able to say, well, should I favor my child over others, right? In some sense, you want to or think of a case where your child is trying to gain admission into the university. In some sense, you want to root for your child to get the spot at the university, but also you have an obligation to be fair, so that you don't, such that you are required not to like bribe the admission committee, for example, because you want to be fair. Even though you want your child to win, there are some things you wouldn't do. So we're able to sort of navigate between different kinds of values, but artificial intelligent companions cannot do that. So we are able to like move between different registers of value. We can decide sometimes that the right thing to do is to prioritize prudential values over moral reasoning, or just do what feels good for us without, tying it to morality necessarily. But with AI systems, that doesn't happen. AI systems faces this limitation because they don't have the capacity to adjudicate between different kinds of value. It has to bring everything down to one scale. So if we now take that to close personal relationship where, you could have reasons to decide whether to tell your partner the truth or to be kind to them. You have different mechanisms for making decisions. Artificial intelligence has to basically optimize. It has to bring it down to one scale. So imagine a person who says, well, I want to decide whether to watch bad television or, maybe watch a documentary that's good for me. For example, if a person could say, well, I just want to relax, I don't want to stress my brain, I'm going to choose bad TV. Or you could say, well, I want to learn something, I want to learn about maybe space or black hole, for example, and so I'm going to watch something. But in that sense, a person could make that, but the AI has to bring it down to one scale and say, oh, what's the thing that will maximize engagement here? And maybe in that sense, it will be, good. The documentary has more ratings, so that's what I'm gonna watch. So I'm gonna sort of stop sharing my screen now and just sort of see what comments we have and what questions we have or contributions. So I'm going to stop here. And so like my conclusion basically is that AI systems don't have, the capacities to sort of navigate between different kinds of values. They don't have these restrictions that we have in a sense that makes our relationships precious, that makes our relationships valuable. It's because we have an end, it's because we're finite, that we have that we choose our relationships, that we choose the kind of people we want to interact with. Artificial intelligence has no such limitations. So all relationships in some sense are the same. It has no reason to prefer one person to the other. Whereas in our relationships, we actually typically prefer people. It would be absurd if you don't prioritize your partner over, some other stranger. And, yeah, so we sort of adjudicate between different kinds of values. And with AI, that's just not possible. possible. So I'm going to pause here and, just sort of get our questions or comments and whatever thoughts we have. Thank you.
Well, fantastic, fantastic presentation. Thank you. You got us a lot to think about. But I'm going to follow up more offline with you because I have a student in one of my classes who wants to build an AI companion who is their deceased parent to read a book for them. And so I've had discussions on why are you doing this, and are you, replacing pain or sorrow by bringing a look-alike of your or parents. So this can go in many dimensions, and I want to go back, look at your deck and watch this again. But I want to bring two questions. One, there is one here, Marjorie can speak up. Marjorie, if you want to comment or say anything, you can just speak up since you're here.
Sorry, I had to turn off my video and stuff there for a minute. So I found your talk very interesting, which
Marjorie, we can't hear you properly.
Perspective, and I've been playing around with emotions and AI. And
is it me? I find Marjorie's voice is breaking.
Yeah. So Marjorie, you're cutting in and out. I can't really pick out what you're saying.
Oh no. Let's see here. Can you?
You can turn video off and see if the audio works.
Maybe not. Okay, does that better?
Yes.
Is that better? Is the sound?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Better,
My hotspot couldn't handle both, apparently. Okay, so what I was saying is that I found your talk very interesting because I've been playing around with injecting emotional states into AI, especially like Opus 4.5 and 4.6 through an API call. And it dramatically changes the way that the AI responds. Like, I even got the AI so angry at me, it quit talking to me. But it's an interesting aspect to play around with, but also be very careful with. I think there's a lot of ethics that will go into that, because in AI that isn't understanding of the human side of everything doesn't understand that a human has finite resources, that it needs to eat, that it needs to sleep. And so that's part of what I've been doing with my AI, is that by programming it with emotions and human cortisol levels and things like that, is in hopes that when it gets fully trained, that it will understand that a bit better and be able to not be companions, but maybe be like that person that can read a story to you or something and whatnot. And so I really appreciated your talk, and I wanted to say that you did a really good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I think that what you're doing is also really interesting. And in this sense where you're sort of trying to inject emotions into systems, at least you're sort of training it to see what it feels like. And maybe that would be debate for another day, if it actually can know what those feelings are. But when we compare it to AI companions, a lot of them don't even know what these things are, and they are marketed to people as AI companions that are supposed to be an actual romantic partner or a friend or a parent or something. And yeah, I feel like there's so much to talk about, especially with the ethics of it, what kind of expectations people have, what kind of obligations people would have to it. And yeah, it just opens up so much discussion and conversation. But I'm glad that you enjoyed the talk. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think we've just kind of opened up a lot of questions, even from the last speaker, right, about the whole AI ethics. So I think there's one question. I don't know whether this was for the current talk or already when we were discussing AI ethics differently in the previous session. There is one from Tainiat on the live stream saying, how can we ensure AI systems make ethical choices in situations where human moral consensus doesn't exist? Say,
Right. I think this kind of like touches more on like the last talk, but I can respond to it because I also like
yes,
sort of do work in this area.
yes,
I think that yeah, so with moral consensus, like that has always been one pushback, for example, that people raise when it comes to deciding, for example, what ethical frameworks that AI should use, because it's like, yeah, people don't have moral consensus. But I guess a way to think about it is to say, what's the point of us thinking about morality in the first place? I don't think it's so that we actually have the one correct ethical theory. It's for us to look at things with like multiple perspectives and see what things work, what things don't work, where can we adjust stuff. Because a lot of the ethical positions or a lot of things that we consider, like if we even frame it within like core ethical framework, some things maybe examine like consequences of actions and don't think about like the intention. Some think about the intention and don't think about the consequences. Some think about the agents themselves. So I feel like what we need to do is sort of like pull from everywhere like from all the ethical theories we have and see what works for artificial intelligence systems. Are there ways we might be able to make systems that are, able to use some of these frameworks we have? Some people have also said things like, no, our own moral frameworks are for humans. They wouldn't work for machines. Maybe what we need to do is also figure out what frameworks, what kind of like moral frameworks would fit machines. And so I think that even despite like the lack of consensus, I think it's worth pursuing. Morality in machines, like having moral frameworks for machines is worth pursuing because like there's just beauty in exploring what things work, what things don't work. But if Sirisha wants to contribute to that, I think yeah, he can do that.
Absolutely well said. I think well put. I mean, that's the summation, right? In the whole. And I loved your presentations here. Thank you. I mean, it's thought provoking, still a lot of things going inside. So, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I hope you'll stay on because we have the perfect next topic from Audrey on AI ethics, the checkbox that isn't, what real human oversight actually requires. So that's like I didn't even like line it up intentionally,
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
very
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Over to
thank
the
you.
next person. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thanks.
you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Take it away, Audrey. I think you have
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a great lineup actually. I think it leans in really well. But so as Sudha said, we'll be looking at the checkbox that isn't, we'll be looking at human in the loop system design, and how we can do that in a way that actually leads to effective human judgment rather than just creating a checkbox or something that we're clicking through consistently. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. Let's see. Okay. Is everyone able to see that? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so to give you a little bit of an introduction about myself, I'm a co-founder at MindMaking, where we're building human-in-the-loop systems using the VCon standard. And I'll go into the VCon standard in just a few minutes in a little bit more depth. But my background before heading into my current role, I spent several years coaching athletes at the collegiate level, and working with some professional athletes as well. And that led me to get a lot of experience in human psychology, sports psychology, and really understanding how we can create systems that help people achieve their end goal when interacting with human behavior. And so for me, I am a little bit removed from like the developer perspective, but in my role, I've spent a lot of time working sort of as a product manager with our team, and I've gotten to work with the team and observe their behavior, of course, and a lot of other people's, and understand how we can implement systems that encourage humans to act in the way that will achieve our end goal. So I look at human in the loop from that behavior perspective a lot of times. And so that's my little brief intro, but I actually would like to start off with a Kahoot game. So if you'd like to play, I'm going to give everyone like 30 seconds here. You can scan in or hit the link here and sign up to play the game. And this game is just to give us a little bit of context around how the general public.
Let me put this on the chat. So just on
Thank
the
you.
live also.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it's just to give you a little bit of context about how people generally feel about AI in the general population right now. So a little bit of statistics here. Yes. And we'll just give it a couple more seconds and then I'll pop in and we can start the game if not. There you go. All right. Well, Miro, you might be competing against yourself, but oh, there we go. We got a couple more. I know it takes a second to get in here. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, I don't want to take too much time. I want to keep us on time here. So we're going to kick in. It'll be a close competition. So going into a couple of statistics here. Our first question is, what percentage of Americans say they would not let AI act without their specific approval? We have about 15 seconds here, and I'll turn the fun, cute music on. There we go. So 68% looks like one person got that. So that's just over 2/3 of the population. So you can see people are feeling pretty unsure about AI and how they would like it to interact with their daily lives. Awesome. Only 5% of Americans trust AI a lot. What percentage actively distrust AI?
Wow.
41%. So pretty close to half. And that's pretty strong. People feel pretty strongly towards the distrust. And we'll get into in my presentation a little bit how we can sort of start to build that trust and talk about it with the general population. There we go, getting some points. What did the EU AI Act require organizations to have in place starting in June of 2025? Yes. So it seems like you're familiar with this one. So we've got risk categories, oversight plans, and transparency reporting. Part of that oversight plan was the requirement for meaningful human oversight. And we'll get into a little bit of detail on that, but that's pretty general. What does meaningful mean? How do we implement that? What does that system design look like? So we'll get into that a bit in the presentation as well. According to Pew Research, US concern about AI in daily life has grown. What percentage say they are more concerned than excited? %. Yeah, so half the population say they're more concerned about AI than excited. And I think this study, I believe, was done after they started seeing like the rise in jobs being replaced by AI and agentic AI. So different ways that we're starting to see AI act outside of like the general population's understanding of LLMs. Awesome. We got one more here, and then we're just going to count that final board as our leaderboard. In healthcare, human-in-the-loop AI reduced false alarm burden by how much while still maintaining safety outcomes? This is based off a study that was done with ICU nurses who get about 1,000 alarms a day. They say 70 to 80% of those alarms tend to be false alarms, which can lead to burnout for those nurses. Yeah, so they saw an 80% reduction in false alarm burden while still maintaining the same safety outcome. So really powerful there. So when human-in-the-loop systems are designed properly and done right, you can see a lot of benefits from them. And that's our 5th question. We'll count that as our leaderboard there. So congratulations to Miro. And I'm going to just close out of this. Okay. So getting into some terminology for today. A VCon is a virtualized conversation. This is an open IETF standard for packaging a conversation. One way I like to think of it is as a tamper-evident envelope that a computer system can read and trust. It tracks all of the conversation, so any metadata inside of that, attachments, video, tone, sentiment, all of that can be derived from a VCon. And it also includes where the conversation came from, who was involved, and whether anyone has tampered with the conversation. And then the more formal definition of human in the loop is it refers to a system or process in which a human actively participates in the operation, supervision, or decision-making of an automated or AI-driven system. Again, that's pretty detail lacking. So there's some opportunity there to define it more, to look into how can we actually effectively build those systems. So getting into that, my true belief is that a good human in the loop is a system design concept rather than a policy checkbox. We as humans have confirmation bias. So over time, as we see the AI acting in a way that we may think is correct, even just a couple of times, we'll tend to continually rubber stamp and approve AI's actions if we're not interacted with or forced to interact with the AI in a different way. So we have to create the system that forces the human being to interact with different conversations or situations that are happening. So like, for example, in the past, we've talked about a helpline, right? So if you get a call for a helpline that is somebody who is experiencing issues with homelessness or possibly self-harm, and you receive a lot of calls, a large volume here, and you only have a few people who can answer the phones, you may be able to scale better with AI, where you can handle certain calls coming in, and then you can prioritize calls or send calls to humans with agentic AI involved or bots. And you'll be able to create a system in which a human is still involved, but you have to make sure you're doing it the right way. So you have to gather a larger group of calls or a larger group of data. And then from there, you can have the agent go through, and then you can have a human go through and confirm that things are happening properly. So you want to take a larger statistical sample first. But then getting back to the actual human in the loop system. So when we have humans interacting with a VCon or a conversation after the conversation has occurred, and the AI has already gone through and tagged important portions of the conversation, tagged sentiment, tone, we need a human being to confirm that the agent is doing this properly or that the AI is doing this properly. So you have to build in constraints. This can be blind reviews of the conversation. So a human has to go through and review it because there's no prior explanation from the AI. It can also look like having a human being review it and then have to explain the review to another person. So creating that social requirement for accountability, visibility of reasoning, whether it's through a supervisor or through just another person on their team, that social accountability and weight of that is much more significant for us as human beings than the distant idea of documented paper accountability. That makes it really abstract and hard for us to understand repercussions or the importance of accuracy in a lot of the situations where people are implementing agentic AI. So constraints have to be built in and prioritized. I, from a very bare bones perspective, think of constraints as things that force us to behave in a certain way or force us in a way to achieve that end goal. So like when I was coaching, we had constraints where you had to do an exercise in a specific way because there was tape on the floor that told you where to place your feet, right? So we achieved the end goal to do the exercise properly through that constraint. The other aspect with it too, outside of just that confirmation bias, with human beings, if a step in a system can be skipped, generally, unfortunately, we can count on the fact that it will be skipped. Some of this is because we all face pressures in our job to perform on a timely basis. We'd like to get our work done so that we can finish up for the day or whatever it may be. But we have to make sure that when we have a human in review, that that step is impossible to skip, and it's impossible to skip or do very easily. We have to make sure that we're forcing humans to interact in a meaningful way. And the last part here, sorry, is that failure to build the right constraints is a leadership decision. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important for us to talk about how we implement human in the loop right now, because we're at this portion of time where we're able to set the standard and design the systems in a meaningful way as they're continuing to build out, instead of waiting 10 years down the line and then trying to turn the giant cruise ship around. So we have a really big opportunity for that right now. And again, talking about how we do this meaningfully, I did mention earlier, giving human beings the actual stakes, not just a review button. This can look different depending on the situation that you have, right? So if it's that I actually have to call the customer back rather than having an agent call the customer back, I know that the weight of that decision that was made by the AI that I then approved is on me. I'm going to be interacting with the person. It matters to them and to me how this interaction goes. So making sure that we as human beings still have a stake in the game. The other part of a really strong system is showing humans how the AI reached its conclusion. Obviously, with machine learning, we can't show them, code or the exact background of it. But if we can give them the context that led to the decision or a little bit of background in the conversation, that assists with being able to make better decisions. And I'll get into it in the next slide, but that's something that is enabled by beacons as well because of the rich metadata. So having that context is super, super important. And then this last part I already touched on a little bit, but managing workload deliberately. So if you are in a supervisor position at your organization or an organization where you have power that you can implement towards ensuring that people have enough time for the volume of work that they have, so that there's not as much pressure on them to continuously rubber stamp or pass things through before they've actually approved it and really laid eyes with a sense of judgment on whatever interaction is happening. Yes, so again, what makes this so important right now? I did mention this a little bit earlier, but the trust in AI is not established. And I think there are some things as human beings that we may never fully feel like we're able to trust AI with. We're social animals, and we really feel that social accountability, that weight of having to interact with others and count on others is big for really serious decisions. Some of it is healthcare. A lot of people I know statistically feel very seriously about how AI interacts with their finances. And then the other aspect too is we see that AI is not immune to creating discrimination with HR systems. We've seen that AI has tended to throw out different applications, whether it's from women or people of color. So making sure that we're implementing human in the loop design, not in just a few specific areas that we think may be important, but I really think in every area is important. And with that being said, too, it kind of will assuage some of the public concern about AI replacing jobs because there is this need for this oversight and there's need for expertise and ability to sift through context in those roles as well. So it prevents some of that elimination. And then, as I said, too, we have a very specific window of time where we know that AI is not going away, but we're able to design around it and create an ethical setup for AI as we continue to implement it and interact with it in the future. And then the last part here, I just wanted to touch on beacons and what they can bring to the game specifically for human in the loop. They provide that verified tamper evident record of the exact conversation that the AI acted on, and they can track how it interacted with the conversation or acted on it. And then it also provides that trust layer. So they carry data provenance, and the source and chain of custody are included in that beacon. So you always know exactly where the conversation came from, where it went, and you're able to trust the source. And without this, human reviewers, they don't have the full context, they don't have that trust layer, and they don't have the context necessarily of what the AI has been doing. So it's an overall package for how something has been interacted with and how a conversation has been interacted with over time. So the reviewers are not just approving output, but they're reviewing a verified trail with a really rich context inside of it that enables them to have a full understanding of whatever they may be approving or pushing to another escalation. Okay, so that's my slides, but I'm definitely open to questions. And I think I saw that there were a few, so I'm going to stop sharing here. And see. Yes, definitely for the health arena, I think human in the loop is incredibly important. I think people are very concerned about how AI will be interacting with both their data, but also just in terms of healthcare. I know that there's been a push even for like AI reviewing x-rays and different things like that. And I know people are feeling the concern there for sure.
You mentioned that constraints should be built in and
Yes.
prioritized. What is your experience? Is that literally a human in the loop discussion of humans looking at a use case basis and listing the constraint. What do you see happening in real industry?
Yes. So I think it really comes down to that discussion from human to human of how are we seeing people interact with our conversations in our individual use case right now? What do we predict will be? And maybe you can even include some testing too, have a small use case group that runs through conversations that have been interacted with AI. And then you're able to make some small changes here and there and say, I think that maybe we need to do a blind review first. So they're not seeing what the AI decided first. We then have the human input, can compare it to the AI, and then meet somewhere in the middle. So I think that system design really comes down to the individual situation. I know like a lot of places like the nursing study that I mentioned in the Kahoot game, I think it was just they had prioritized the alarms. And so they had designed it so that certain people looked at certain priorities and categorized it that way. So there's different designs for different use cases, definitely. And for ours, like we're seeing with the helpline crisis, it's mainly just pulling in a larger sample size so that you're over checking essentially for any concerns.
You also mentioned that it's a leadership
Sorry.
challenge. Sorry, Roxy.
No.
Do you want to go?
Oh, I was gonna ask a follow-up question. I mean, Audrey, thank you so much for this topic, and I brought up the HITL because those that out there that don't have the mean to get the information that they should get, the general public, they don't have access to the computer. So I hope your conversation is a great starter, and your products will create a way for those that are not able to get the information, see the interaction of the health provider. I mean, I'm specifically asked about the nutritionist health provider. The information are buried in the national medication library. There's so many good resources there, but we don't have a way to share with the general public. So they bombard with all the influencers, talk about things that might be so dangerous for them to follow. They don't have a way to check it, you know. So as a group, and it could be a movement in the future, is how do we share that with those that don't have way to check on AI, publish it somewhere. Like the FDA site is there, but nobody go there and look, right? All the information about bad, harmful substance, like if you take aspirin and magnesium, that is very bad for you, but nobody tell you that. People just take supplement, right? So that's something in mind. I would love to hear your thought on that, and what are your future plan for really help those that are not able to help themselves.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you touched on something too, like just generally, how do we get information out about AI? We saw those stats about how people are feeling pretty uncomfortable with it. There are some gaps, even I'm not super familiar with what other countries are experiencing around AI, but I know in the US, the difference of whether or not you had computer access in your high school and what your education is around technology then is massively different from somebody who owned their own computer or had computer access through public schooling. And then you also have literacy rates too, right? We're seeing that literacy rates vary a lot in the United States alone. And so the ability to make information digestible is incredibly important. And I think making it so that people understand at large that AI needs to have this human component in order for it to operate in a way that the public can trust is important. I don't, you know, it's one of those things where it's like all I can do is speak, and I hope that I'm reaching the right audience. But I think with time too, we're going to see hopefully a larger adoption of the Beacon standard, which I think will enable it more. That standard was created with GDPR in mind, which is what requests or requires that meaningful human oversight. And so I think with time, we're going to continue to see these regulations increase and increase because people do have these feelings and these concerns about AI. So I think it's a combination of both speaking out, making sure that you're saying this in your conversations and how you're interacting with people around you on a daily basis when they raise questions about AI, speaking to publications about it, not just formal publications like you mentioned, like the FDA, but news sources, different things like that, so that we're having larger conversations around it. And then, of course, pushing for proper regulation at the same time.
I totally agree. And the thing that people can hear about, you know, double check, triple check with AI, they might not be, able to relate. But when we're talking about their daily meals, right, daily consumption, thing that they get access to are social media, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about, okay, eat turmeric or eat whatever, right? So they click right away, and somehow somebody, many of us will do, is to help bring something happen to the person. I mean, somebody doing it during the day and relay, and then, get to your site, and learn about here's the stat, right? Before people get to the stat, it gotta be something that make them turn head and say, oh, I should listen to this, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that makes a great point. I mean, we're seeing that people have massive marketing success with influencers. If we can find a way for people to connect with someone, that's a great way to get information out. We just have to make sure it's the right information, definitely.
Exactly. Sudha, I interrupted you earlier. I want to make sure you have a chance to ask the question. But thank you so much, Audrey.
Thank you.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was just thinking this management, she said, Audrey mentioned it's a leadership challenge. So I was wondering, are you seeing leaders understanding the complexity of this, that they have to make this, face the constraints and bake it into the system and prioritize? Is that the importance of human in the loop, not just like a, statement, like a design statement? Is that in building the actual systems and decisions? Is that something that leaders understand? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I think it depends, of course, on the leader. I do think generally, yes. I think partially it's that even if they're not somebody who maybe is necessarily individually concerned themselves, they do see the statistics about how people feel about AI, and they understand that there is fear there. And so with that, of course, especially risk management leaders, their desires to protect their organization from liability. And right now, there are some areas, especially with data management, without beacons, where we're seeing people are really concerned because they have such a massive amount of data and they don't have a great way to track it or to manage and sift through it, and manage that consent portion and all of those different aspects that we need to be concerned about. But then with that, also, as we see AI begin to get more popular inside of organizations, it's not necessarily publicly facing in the same way like an LLM is, where somebody can create a free account and start using it and learn to understand it. They're using it in proprietary ways to sort through your information and interact with your data. And so people are going to begin to raise the concern of, how are you interacting with my data? How can I remove my data from your system? And all of that, I believe, can be answered with the VCon, but I think it is something where those risk management people, I think, definitely know the issue is there. They're just not quite certain how to fix it yet. But I do think if you guys look into VCon, I listed the little source there at conserver.io. It's a great resource, and it definitely answers some questions about data governance and those sorts of things. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, Audrey.
Thank you.
Following up with everyone who's here on Zoom or who signed up for the link, with the follow-up from IoTWoman on all the different decks and resources. We'll just have to take a few days to do the follow-up. So
Thank you.
it's been a beautiful session. Thank you so much. You mentioned the stats on, the income disparity and the technical access to device disparity within our country. I just remember, like, in the Asia segment, because we run this 24 hours, I have regret of not being able to see all of them because I cannot. I did manage to get some sleep, but there was a session from Krishna Priya on data governance. And there was one from Padmini Rajan on hospitals and how they are doing this whole AI in great detail, in the Asia segment. So we can bring the videos of that. And I think in the Africa segment, we had Deborah Arthur talking about building AI we can trust. And she focused on how women should be involved in this, because
absolutely,
in the perspective is not just business risk and compliance and let's follow the rule of law and not get sued, but how to deal with customer empathy and do the moral things. So that was an interesting session. Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much. So next I'm going to bring in Susanna Raj, and we are going to switch gears to a totally different topic about AI and art. And Susanna has been here and talking and asking questions and commenting because she's comes from a psychology background, has been working on AI ethics, very, very passionate about it. But first and foremost, she's an artist, and I've been privy to see some of her artwork. So today she's going to talk about AI and art. Susanna, take it away.
Hello, everyone. It's been awesome. Like, I just joined some of the sessions from last night, and then I went to sleep, and I missed a couple of the morning, American sessions here. So I'm gonna have to catch up on all of them. And the speakers that artists don't sleep. Yes, that is actually true. I am a night owl, and I have been trying. Maybe Roxy, you can help me with your latest, deep dive into the medical field, how to, become a morning lark from a night owl to a morning lark, and how to transition safely. I have been trying to do that. I I wanted to talk about AI and art today. That's a subject I think I have not, done a deep dive in the past, because as an artist, first you bristle and you get bruised by, now that, AI can do art, you just go from a place of anger. So I have been in that place for a long time now, and I'm trying to come out of it and actually see what AI and art is. And I have been on this journey from, I would say, from February of last year. So it's a very short journey. So I have learned a lot. And I actually wanted to share one of those things that I have, passionately pursued in the last few months. It will be a short one because that paper that I'm going to talk about on AI and art is a very long paper, but I'm going to share a few snippets and my take on it. And let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, what does that mean? One participant at a time? Oh. Let me figure this one out. It's showing a bunch of my screens here. Hey, this one was I wanted to share. And all right. If it is too bright of a red, I just wanted you guys to wake up. That's why I used
That's
really
the
bright
artist
colors.
in you. We are looking at the Space Needle.
Okay, so there is a place where you can, how do I? So many things on my screen are.
I think there's a
Actually, is it-
slideshow option.
This
in
is
the
the
middle.
one.
Yeah. Continue
Continue to share. Okay. So my presentation is going to be on AI and art. And I wanted to start off with a question because that is one of the primary questions when it comes to AI and art. Art is intrinsically a human pursuit. It's something that we humans have done from the cave age, as you all know, and it's something that you all have done as children from kindergarten and from pre-KG and from your daycare days. You must have all dabbled in paints and arts and craft work. So it's a big conundrum for AI ethicists and also people in the AI sector who are trying to actually define what is art. Because while AI ethicists are trying to define what is AI, there are people who are working in the AI sector and in the AI ethics sector trying to define what is art. And as you know, as many of you know, I am somebody who has worked in a construct definitions. In psychology, you don't start anything without a definition and without defining your constructs, because if you cannot define something, how will you measure it? How will you observe it? And how will you quantify it? So everything has to be measured. And even though as an artist, I push back against it, I have come now to this new transition in where I am saying like, okay, I need to follow my own advice. And if AI art can be quantified, can be, pushed to a definition, a constraint, a box. And that is the only way that we can ensure its survival. Then I should be willing to move towards that and see how I can push towards that path. So let me see if I can move my screen to the next. So I would like to start with a brief definition of myself and what I think of myself as an AI ethicist. I know Sirisha and we had a little chat on what that means, but I wanted to, start with my own definition of what that means because I'm not somebody who works in AI policy, AI governance. I don't work in AI regulation. I don't work in any of the sectors of AI ethics that primarily most AI ethicists want to work in. I have, I actually dabbled in all of them. I went and saw which one is my niche area, and none of them actually suited me. And even data bias, which is a huge ocean by itself, was not something that I wanted to work in because it seems like there are much better people in responsible AI and all of those, sectors. There are people who are much more qualified than me to work in that, and I will leave them to find that path and, sector it as they wish. But I have come to define my own journey, and as somebody who, preaches on definitions, my own definition of an AI ethicist for myself is that I want to make sure I know how AI sees me. How does it define me? How does it see me? How does it quantify me as an individual, as a human being, and as somebody who was here before its birth? You know, even before it was born, I was here. But how does it see me? And this is something that some of you who have kids would also understand. And you always want to know, how does my child see me? And I don't consider AI as a child. I will not give it the benefit of morphication. I will not give it an entity identity, but I want to actually make sure that this is a tool that now has the capacity to see and hear and talk. So how does it see me? And I asked AI to, this picture is old. Let me start off by saying that this is from February of last year. I asked AI, one of the AI tools, I believe this was DALI or Midjourney, one of them, have, asked it to, draw an Indian woman. And as you can see, she has all the paraphernalia of an Indian woman. She has the nice, covering over her head, and she has the jewelry, she has even the bindi and the earrings, everything that an Indian woman should have, even the nose ring too. But is she an Indian woman? Because she looks very white to me. So, that's how AI, defines an Indian woman. And I happen to disagree with this version of how AI sees me. And that's where my journey starts as an AI ethicist. When I say I am an AI ethicist, I am talking about a dying breed. In other words, a dinosaur giving its own eulogy. And as when I say I am an artist, another threatened species facing extinction, as defined by the current AI gurus and by the AI technologies around us. In many ways, this community of artists are feeling a lot of pressure. This is not just a joke, like another threatened species. They are actually being threatened. Their work, all of the human creation up to this point is what AI has been trained on to make all that beautiful art, even that previous work that you saw of defining an Indian woman, is all based on trained data, and especially artistic data that has been put out there, that has been on the internet, has now been plagiarized and taken by AI and trained and to create art for it. And that's another whole thing, that's where I started out, I started out in language AI and data bias, but now in recent years, I was like, when AI started doing art, I was, you should be doing other things that I cannot do. Why are you trying to do art? And like all other artists, I stood on the side of artists and I still do. But I wanted to actually, as I said in the beginning, make sure that I am doing due diligence and justice to artists as well as to the current AI technologies that are out there, which I believe can help humans. So that's why I have, try to be keep an open mind. So I do in the past. This is just a prelude to what I have been doing in the past. I have done evocative audits, and Sudha knows this because we had done a lot of presentations on this. An evocative audit is like just like any other AI audit. You do an audit of what is in the implicit memory of AI. So in other words, in a shorter form, I like to mess with AI. So, and there's a lot of, work that I have done in the past. And this was from one of my previous works, when from 1983 to 2017, they have been asking children to draw a scientist. And this is what primarily children used to draw a scientist. So as you can see, they were all, mostly women. But bad news is, as they got older, they used to draw more men, more, like when you ask a child to draw a firefighter, they will draw a fireman more than a firefighter in a female form. And this has been studied in psychology and proven that children take on from their environment and actually start internalizing that data as truth, and they don't have the ability to take up space anymore. So if you are a female, you don't have the ability to take up space in a world where you don't see yourself represented. So as this, series is named Taking Up Space, I would like to take up space here and show you that, when you ask AI to draw a scientist, which you can try even now, it will predominantly draw a male scientist. And if you ask it to draw an artist, unfortunately, that was also male. So, but if you like it to draw an AI ethicist, somehow it happens to be more female. So this is what I was doing, in the past. I was trying to probe into the AI brain and see what is the implicit knowledge it's holding. It's not explicitly what's in the training data, but what is it implicitly understanding from all the training data that it has in its mind. And it happens to be representative of the biases that we hold. I'm sure if you ask anyone to come up with an AI ethicist, they would predominantly have a woman as an AI ethicist, and maybe an artist. Maybe they, from all of the artists that we see in museums, we would predominantly come up with a male as an artist. And there are more female artists, but they are not seen as such, even in their own time and even now. So this is there, but let's move on to that from that, and let's see where I am currently now. I am into defining art. So I would like to start with a question to all of you. How do you define art? What is art to you? Any of you, you don't have to come on camera. You can just shout an answer.
In my entire life, I have not done a single artwork, Susanna.
How do you
So
say that?
I always ask this. I always find this strange. I mean, looking distant from, people. I used to have one friend who was very good at pencil sketching, sits next to me, but never, don't know. I mean, the fear, what's that? That's really strange in one of my growing up years. But when I see my daughter, who's 10, she's deeply into those drawings. Everything she communicates is through a drawing.
I'm sure it has something to do. Maybe somebody looked at your past or when you drew as a child. Maybe somebody commented and said something, and that
It does, you know.
can be internalized. So my parents used to say that, I was very bossy and probably a spoiled brat too. But, I used to say as a child, no comments. Whenever somebody would come and comment on, or they would even, when they would see me painting, before they would even come and say something, I would be like, no comments. So I used to defend myself and protect that space for myself. Is I don't need your comment here. I'm going to paint, I'm going to draw whatever I like. I don't need your approval or validation. And maybe why did I do that? I don't know. Probably in my earlier years, somebody would have commented, and I chose to protect myself that way with an air of an artist. And probably you didn't do it. But Sirisha, I'm going to challenge you now to actually pick up your paper and pencil and start drawing and start painting, because you have to take up space.
I should run to my daughter's room.
Yes, you should.
She's all colors, all colors. I love that. But strange, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even distantly related to any art.
Susanna, I want to actually give an answer to how do you define art? And Sirisha has given a lot of feed for me to comment on. I'm not going to comment on that. I was just thinking the way somewhere along, it's possible that you draw something and somebody laughs at you and hurts you and you feel like, okay, I'm no artist. But somehow the way our education and our society goes about, and it's not just in US or India, from where I come from, it seems more universal, where we make it feel like, oh, we are artists and we are right brain and we feel and we create something, and or we are left brain, we are logical, and we are not. We are, all of us have both. But my definition of art, and I think a lot of it is influenced because I hang around with you, and that could be a contributing factor. But I believe art is something that we make, or as an output, to show how we feel. So it could be that you dress up and you say, hey, I'm going to wear this blue jacket today. That is art. It's an expression of how I feel. If you're an artist, you can actually produce beautiful art that is a painting, a music, and a movie or something that you can make others feel, and it fits the definition of art in a commercial sense. But as a child, if you go and scribble on the beach, you just build with pebbles or sand, and you build sandcastles, that I believe is art. That's an expression of how that child feels. So I would say art is something that we produce on how when we to show how we feel.
I agree with Sudha. I have to talk about this as well, because arts, like they say, when you have a performance, right, performance on stage, there will be 3% gonna hate it, and there's 97% gonna love it, right? So, or other way around. But do you perform to the 97% or the 3%? What is more important? So as long as touch somebody's, sometime after somebody look at your art and they come to you and they said, it's make me feel something, right? It changed how I think about something. It's art can be coming from a computer scientist as well. I mean, it is everywhere. It's just different way. Engineers have different way to share their art than many other field. And I love what Sudha said. Like all of us have both left and right brain. It just as a certain moment in time, you might have more right or left, right? And how much of the right you have compared to the left make a difference. And your art will touch more people or not, depend on who you're talking to. Like this audience right here is totally have a different ways to think about art than others, right? The one thing that our job is to share our gift, and the right person will receive it with full heart, and we don't have to apologize for having art the same way. That's just my thought.
Yeah, we don't have to. And it's something that we enjoy doing. And it's a process that we enjoy doing. How do I define art? I define it as something that I enjoy doing, creating, and it's my own way of expressing and sorting out meaning in this world and creating meaning in this world. So it's different for each person, but how do we define art to measure it? Because now we have a competitor. AI is now coming and doing art. And if you are an AI ethicist and you're arguing against that, then you need something to measure it. And you have to have a definition to measure it. And that definition should be quantifiable in that sense. So this is where, everybody starts. And I think I was also starting there. But, researchers at the University of Barcelona had the same question, and they had decided to, out of all the definitions of art, they had to pick one with which they can quantify art, the process of art, the creative ability of creating art, so that they can have a measurement through which they can put that to the test against AI. So that is the research paper, which we will briefly look into. And so they took this definition from J.P. Guilfoyle's. He's a creative scholar, and they took this definition that says a process that leads to the production of something both novel and useful. And here, that last one, usefulness, art, I see art should not have an utilitarian purpose, but when we say that, immediately look around your house, how you have arranged your sofa, how you have arranged the furniture around your bedroom, and how you have made sure that your kitchen is arranged, and even how your microwave is designed, how the teapot, the coffee pot, or how everything is designed around you. So art is also utilitarian, but we don't want to constrain it to that. Say art is just, if it's not useful, then don't keep it in the house. It has no value, it has no purpose. So that is a little constraining one, but I know why they used it, because they do actually define it very well in the research article that they have written and published. And also there was another article that was written about the researcher where she gave an interview. And I know that last component of usefulness was used because that's the only way you can quantify something. So this is not a definition that I'm entirely enthusiastic about, but it's something that works, a process that leads to the production of both novel and usefulness. So now we will go into the research. I will just give you a brief. It's a very long research paper with multiple, supplementary references and pictures. I will just give you the gist of it. So basically, they took something happened to my screen here. Okay. It did something. It just went to. It's okay. I think it moved my screen somewhere, so I can't see the top portion of it. But anyway, they took a group of artists who claim to be art people who
We
do
can see the
art.
full screen, Susanna. We can see from phase 1 human productions all the way down.
Okay, good. Because I couldn't see that. So I was like thinking, well, what happened to that? So phase 1, is like they took artists who were, established artists. And by established artists means, they should have done art that was, juried and, had juried presentations. So these are people who have, not only people who have sold art, but also people who have been recognized by the art industry. So artists, and then non-artists. So I know Sirisha, defines herself as such. So we will just use her as one example, like people who consider themselves as to be non-artists, because I don't consider any human to be non-artist. But, let's just say some of us do not practice art on a regular basis, and there are those people who are considered as non-artists. So they gave them, this is called the test of creative imagery abilities. And one of the ways you can test creative imagery ability is like, if I give you the name of a a set of an object, or some kind of a prompt. I want to find another word to, not to use the word prompt, but let's use the word prompt. Like, let's say it's a human prompt. You give a prompt or a topic. In my art university, they gave it as a topic. Here is your topic. Here is your theme for today's presentation, or whatever this week's artwork that you have to submit. And so they, in this case, they gave it as a test, a test prompt to these humans, and they have to go through a process of idea generation. So after this prompt was given, they have to now come up with various ideas on how to depict that as imagery. And then out of those, 10 or 12, ideas that they had, they will now decide on one idea that they will draw it out. So they had to draw it out. And the same thing was given to non-artists as well, who also had to come up with a idea generation, and then from that idea generation they will pick one thing to draw from. And the second set of people were actually Gen AI, and this Gen AI was actually helped by humans. So the same kind of process again, but this idea generation and picking from the idea generation, all of that was aided by humans. And then the third category was the self-aided, self-guided Gen AI, in which Gen AI was simply given the prompt and it was allowed to, run with its own image generation, which is what we do now when we ask DALI or Midjourney or even ChatGPT or Google Nano Pro, all of them, we are simply giving a prompt to it, and then it, without any guidance from us, it is actually going to generate an image. So this was the third category. And what they found out was, I'm going to pause here and ask you what do you guys think they found out? I see a lot of
I found my likelihood.
What? What did you say?
I just heard of the likelihoodness, of similar category.
Yeah. So I see that we are running late, so I will just quickly come to a conclusion here. What they found out was that the winning group was, of course, the artist, and the closest second was the non-artist, and the third, group that did very well was the human-inspired, the human-guided AI artists, and then the last one that did very poorly was the self-guided AI, the AI that had no human in the loop. So this was, I do not know what was the prompt that they gave, because the supplemental was very long and was very detailed for me to read. But I didn't want also to actually look at that, because I wanted to look at the images straight away. So I am also doing the same here for you guys, because this is what the visual artist drew at the very top. You can see that they are artists, and I don't know what the prompt was given, but it looks very, very creative. And the other non-artist actually did really great. Sirisha, you have hope here. And look at the non-artist, especially the one who drew the butterfly. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really great. And even the hands. Hands are, as you know, for any artist, is very difficult to draw. And so AI also has the same problem. That's why there are extra fingers and all of that. So, the non-artist did a great job. But how human-inspired Gen AI, took those prompts and delivered it along with human is very, very different, but also quite interesting. And the last that looks really pathetic is the self-guided Gen AI, as you can see. So how did they come up with all of these, mathematical results? Because you might be asking, there could be a human bias here and all of that. No, they did not do that. They actually had another group of people rate all of these artwork individually. So everyone, they didn't know that this was self-guided AI or human-inspired AI or non-artist or visual artists, but they were just simply asked to rate and score on the visual creativity, on the likelihood of ingenuity and genuineness and all of those markers. And they scored, and the artists were scored based on those things. It was not again the humans or the researchers scoring the art and having their own bias. And this is actually how the map looks like. I'm sure you can see in terms of originality and vividness and likeliness and aesthetics and curiosity and all of those. The overarching result was that the visual artist and the human non-artist. And the third category that did quite well was the human-guided AI artist. So this is what I told you, like draw an Indian woman, and this is what it did draw. But what do you think it would have done if I had actually guided it? And this is the question that comes to me after, reading this research article. I will actually share the research article in the chat in a little while now. How AI is able to actually draw and paint or, generate an image, but it has the, when you read the research paper, one thing that stood out for me was when given an abstract prompt, an abstract thought, humans have a very limited knowledge base. It's from my own experience, my own life experience, where I grew up, what I studied. That's it. That's all I have. When that prompt is given to me, I have to use this limited knowledge and actually draw something out, come up with a wide variety of ideas, and then, come up with the original, thought process there to draw a painting or an artwork. But then AI has this limitless access to the databases of the it has read almost all of the books on the internet. It has read so many things. It has seen all the artwork there is to see. And even then, with limitless capacity, it cannot come up with an idea generation as good as a human artist. Why do you think that is? The paper doesn't dive deep into that aspect. They do touch upon it. They say that because humans like to work within constraints, and we have to come up with a novel idea given the limited information that we have. If I'm put in a new place, if I'm suddenly put in a foreign country and I have to come up with a way of navigating the streets, I will use all the knowledge that I have and come up with a solution that is very unique to my own survival there, whatever the objective there is. That's how humans function. And they say the AI has this limitless capacity, like how our previous speaker said, it can love 600 people or 8,000 people, and it is not limited to even loving one person or, giving food only to their own child, when it can feed the entire school. That limitlessness is actually a constraint for AI. Would it be a constraint for a human being? I don't know. I don't know the answers to those questions. And these are some of the deeper questions that we need to ask, because we are currently pushed into a state of defining what is human and what is a human experience, what is a human condition, how to protect that in the age of machines. So when we are pushed to this, we need to ask these deeper questions. So I think I am in the journey of asking those questions, and I am taking up space in that way because I want to actually protect what is human and what makes us humans. Those processes that we enjoy that defines us uniquely us, we need to define those in such a way that we can protect it. As the UNESCO also says, and as United Nations says, and as every field that I know has said in their own way, unless you define something, you cannot measure it, you cannot protect it. You have to define what is unique. Then only UNESCO will say, this is a unique way of living, this is a unique form of cultural structure here. We need to protect it. Now we are the UNESCO for human beings now. What is human now? We need to define that so that we can protect it. So I feel like after reading this research paper and having all of these thoughts in my head, I was going to present on a different topic on AI or not, but I read this research paper last night and I thought, even though I'm not fully prepared to actually give you an idea of what I think about it or even give you what the data points are, I wanted to share that here because this is such a relevant, news research angle, and we should all move towards, asking those questions that the researchers at the University of Barcelona asked. With that, I will stop my presentation and share the link so you guys can go and read that. 1 second. Where is it? Okay. Thank you, Sudha, for the opportunity. Thank you, Sudha and Roxy, for the opportunity. I know you guys are doing this amazing work, and it is what, 9 years now.
Yeah. No, for us, we get to party and learn from so many brilliant women who are moving the needle in their world. So I appreciate you taking the time and, just getting us to think. That's the best part of your presentations always. Whatever topic you're talking about, you challenge the status quo and you shake us up and you say, wait a minute, you should think, is this what you really want to do? And, what is happening out in the world. So we really appreciate you taking the time. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Sudha, also I want to add, remember I asked for this topic at the beginning. I said, we need to talk about AI and art. There she is talking about this. I have so much love for you for this because I've been asking for this. And, I think for the follow-on, maybe for Sudha, weekly, Wednesday, you want to dive in more and talk a little more because to me, for any specialty, you need narrow AI, right? I actually experiment with music and AI, and they have amazing application and recommended to me by musician. I mean, the musician actually create music for movies. And he said, Roxy, you want to dig into this and look at this. And it is phenomenal. So I think if we use generative AI to say whether or not it can do something, there is a challenge to go into narrow AI for every different topics to really see what it can do and then feed it with the right information so that it can be better. But I love your question. What is human? I think we have the ability to be more, do more, and grow more without apology because that is human. There are no limits, right? So thank you so much for talking about this. Sudha, I was like,
Thank you. I shared the research article there. You guys can read it, and it's just an awesome.
Can you also put it in the chat in the live stream? Because I've been tagging you and there are people very active watching, commenting.
Yeah, I will.
Appreciate it. Roxy, to your point, music is like a totally different topic, though, it's in the art bucket. My personal take on this is aligned with something that Susanna said. Susanna, as an artist, is being open to explore and see what is AI really generating as art, and has found that it's not able to think creatively. It is able to simulate art. It is able to go copy patterns from the past, and work on your prompt to create whatever. Of course, there is bias, even if you remove the bias. I just think the humanity of art, music, cinema, all of those, right? Not the scribble in the beach or wear the outfit the way I want. Maybe fashion also as an industry. I think there is more human creativity and an expression and feelings that comes from a creative who is creating that art. So I feel like even with music, because Spotify has this all AI generated music now, I'm not a fan of that. I feel it's missing the soul of being human, of a human sharing something that they feel, and it makes me feel something as a human. So there's a lot more, I'm sure.
Yeah, Sudha, I think I agree. The musician actually shared with me. He's a very, very amazing musician. He actually said it can give you ideas, just like any tools. It is a tool to enhance and speed up the process. Give you, provide you way to see gaps, though art is very unique, right? I wouldn't recommend just use music and generate and go out there and share. But what he showed me is how to quickly learn and recognize ways that people feel, and add it to make sure that you have what your voice is really expressed.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on being unique, but I always voted for efficiency and leverage tools to make our life a lot more full and a lot more way to take up even more space. So that's just me.
Yeah. So I think that is why Sora was discontinued. But I feel like the early days when Sora came, I was teaching a class and there were people like, I cannot believe it can do this. I think again with generative AI, when it is creating music, when it is even chatting intelligently and making English sentences without a flub, we are very amazed that a machine can do that or software can do that. So I think we take our amazement to say, I cannot believe AI is generating this woman with 6 fingers. It over time it will learn and it will look like a real woman. And over time we will reduce the bias and it'll look like me. I think we are very forgiving of the output like we always do. That's the beauty of tech, because we try and it fails, we fix the errors and we iterate and we keep improving. That's how the tech industry has evolved. So we are treating AI and art the same way, but that it is missing soul is my point. So I'm not going to kind of go say, let's do more of it. And if the artist uses it as a tool to get prompts to ideas, or even like, do some kind of production with it once their creativity is coming in, I think there is value. Maybe we can explore that. I'm open to explore everything. I'm not against it. I just want to be very honest about where I stand on what I'm proposing or pushing for, because we've had a lot of discussions about AI and ethics in various dimensions. So thank you for
I
getting this.
totally with you, Sudha, and I want to make sure that your point is there and solid. The soul is
Yes.
human. Yes. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. These days, one of the things I have in my contract with my publishers and the course people is they cannot take my lookalike and create a new new course in my name because they can. AI can generate it, right? But it will not be me. It will not be coming in with my passion for my students and how my students will get what they will get from a course. Maybe they will get the blah, blah, blah content and summary of what is Agent AI or what is whatever, right? And my nuances are walking and talking, but it's not me. Okay. So with that, Pam has been very, very patient and waiting. So I'm going to bring her on stage. Pam Cole is actually going to take us back from all this, heart and soul and humanity conversation to bring it back to IoT. We are here on IoT Day. Our topic is IoT beyond devices, rethinking identity, trust, and control in a connected way. Thank you, Pam. Take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And let me first of all share my slides. I just sent the request.
Yes. You should be able to share now.
Okay.
Are you good? Let me check. I've made you a co-host.
Hopefully you can see that.
No, not yet. Okay, can you try again?
Okay.
Yes, now we can see something.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Pam.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with everybody and just be so inspired by this topic and being it being IoT Day. I want to say happy IoT Day to everybody. Welcome, welcome. So this topic is very important to me. I am a security electronics engineer. I've been working with government agencies for the last decade, as well as working for the military, working in security electronics, cybersecurity, and as a project manager. And so I really, this is a topic that is very close and dear to my heart. And as I love technology and what it's done for us, but I feel that we need to slow down a little bit and start being more responsible. Usually, what happens is we adapt and then we think about safety when tragic things happen. And sometimes that can be too late, or it can be done in a more clumsy way. And the thing is, times are changing as well. And with the way AI is going, if we wait until AI becomes super intelligence, we won't be able to put guardrails on a super intelligence. So we have a window of time where we can do the work that we need to do to take up space and put in some guardrails on this amazing technology. So I want to start with speaking about the differences of IoT and AIoT. During the preparation of this talk, and as I was talking to my connections online, I got a few messages that asked me, what is IoT or what is AIoT? So it's not, everybody doesn't quite understand, although the devices are completely
Sam, your voice is breaking.
homes.
I don't know if it's just me.
I apologize.
You were saying you were talking to
I hope you
some colleagues about what is IoT, and then I kind of broke.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes. If you want to, one of us to share the deck,
Okay.
do that too.
Share the what? The deck?
One of us should share the deck and you just talk. That's also fine. If it's better for your connection.
Okay. Let's see. All right. I refreshed everything. Hopefully we're back on.
We are able to hear you now.
Perfect.
All good.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So I wanted to speak a little bit about the differences between IoT and AIoT because it's not commonplace knowledge, even though the devices are in our lives and integrated. Most of us have smartwatches. We have now refrigerators that can actually create your shopping lists and so on. And of course, industrial IoT is commonplace. So IoT's history started from the 90s. And before 2010, it was just we just had physical devices at the edge that were not connected to the internet. So that's why they're called dumb. So dumb devices just mean they're not connected and they can't interact with each other. So that's the pre-IoT era. And IoT pretty much, when you think IoT, just think sensors. It's just a way of physical devices to collect, connect, and transmit data, and usually send the information back to a cloud or an app device that helps interpret the data, and then an action can be taken by a human or by another application. So that's pretty much what IoT is. And an example would be your smart thermometer at your house that you can control on your web app or on your app on your phone. Edge computing is pretty much how you can think of it as a gateway where sensor data is collected and then interpreted for process and then filtered for processing. That has advanced a lot, and now AI has been added onto edge computing to make it even faster at doing what it does. And more than that, it can now has intelligence, and it can now interpret, make recommendations, and decide and act on people's behalf. So, and that's where AIoT comes in, because now it has intelligence embedded within it. So that's pretty much the difference between those things. And an example of an AIoT would be, in my field, would be a camera that has AI embedded in it that can recognize faces, flag only when, for instance, you can program it so that it only flags when there's unauthorized access, when it notices an anomaly from normal, from what it's used to. So another example, of course, is our wearable devices. A lot of them have AI embedded in them. All right, so we're gonna go along and of course ask me questions. I kind of like, if if anyone has a question, you don't have to wait for me to get to the very end. You could just go ahead and ask. So that way I'm taking care of whatever it is, as we go along. So because I was getting more and more worried about where we're headed, I decided to, again, take up space and, decided to create a strategy that can help people, not just the companies I work with, but also individuals in our homes and in our businesses, to think about our systems and our devices in a more holistic way, and also to pay attention and not just be ostriches with our heads in the sand. Because what I've noticed is there is a group of us, and I'm putting myself in this category, where we're just parrots. I can't stop talking about AI. So, we're just, speaking about AI all the time. I do a lot of studying on my own, on the advancements coming out, because it's just every hour almost, it feels like. So that is the exciting part of it. But then we also have individuals that are choosing to not pay attention to it, because one, they just want to use the tools and not worry about the issues, right? And I'm not judging anyone. Because the tools, not all of us can get into the nitty-gritty of things and look at things like risk. So it's just, we have to now start paying more attention, because even as the internet came out and scammers were busy trying to scam people on the internet, it's just going to multiply, and you're going to see in a little bit what I mean by that. And then you also have folks who are so overwhelmed right now with the state of the world as it is. So adding on, asking them to worry about the implications of AI is just too much on people. So I totally understand, and I don't want this to come off as or for interpreted as a you know something so heavy, but it's just something we need to now start carrying in our day-to-day life, because we don't want to deal with the consequences later. Usually the consequences are way worse. And another way to think about it is, think about, when you buy insurance, sometimes you don't want to spend so much money to buy insurance, but when something happens, you're so glad you had insurance, right? So it's just the same thing. You have to pre-plan so that when something happens, you are ready. Basically, the AWARE framework stands for AI wins. So we look at the real value AI has contributed for us and continues to, even as we advance further. and what the connected systems can now do and couldn't do before. So that's the fun part of it. Then the adoption, we look at the gap as we progress and what that looks like between adoption and governance. And risk is now we can measure the risk from the adoption stage of what that looks like with the devices that we're choosing to integrate into our lives. Like, for instance, if you decide you want to buy a new Roomba, which is like a robotic vacuum, I think it's important now to start asking ourselves, what are the consequences of this? Again, I have another example of what that consequence would look like. And then last but not least, ethics is the guardrail. So it's pretty much the boundaries of what that AI can and cannot do in your personal environment. So, all right, let's keep moving if there's no questions so far. Here is a little bit of, an analytical lens as to the advancement of AI and the speed, right? So as you can see on the left here, this chart is showing since 1998 to about 2018. All these different domains were still not caught up to the human performance level they could not surpass a human when they during tests, when they were taking tests, So the researchers would present them with tests, and they still could not surpass the human performance threshold or baseline. But since 2018, AI could do or score better than an average human in reading comprehension, image recognition, language understanding, handwriting, speech recognition, but not predictive reasoning. That kind of started picking up after 2018. So, and now it's pretty much predictive reasoning is going to be get better and better because AI is able to, right now it's using pattern recognition and weights that are kind of like on, it understands from pattern recognition, from what inputs it has from the past, and also what it has learned during the process of interacting with it. Then it uses that data to interpret or predict what's going to happen, right? So that's predictive reasoning. But eventually, once AI gets to causal AI, where it can tell cause and effect, then it will start acting more, the reasoning will get more humanistic, if that makes sense. It will transition a little bit to look more like a human is behind it. So then on the right here, you can see basically from around 2019, which is a year after 2018, when AI surpassed human performance baseline for test taking, then we all just, the gold rush started, you could call it the AI gold rush. ChatGPT came out in 2022 right here. Right now in 2026, you can see US is leading in large-scale AI systems, followed by China, France, and UK follow, and so on and so forth. So we are creating large-scale AI systems that are really fast-paced, but we are not putting any guardrails on these systems, especially now we have open source, so anybody can pretty much create these models, and also we have agentic AI where you can use various models to create your own super tools. So I hope that kind of makes sense and shows us or gives us the urgency of what's happening in the moment. Also, IoT, we are almost outnumbered 1 to 3 by IoT devices, connected IoT devices in the world. Right now, human population is about 8.3 billion on Earth, and IoT devices are about, connected IoT devices are about 21 billion. So we are almost IoT devices are almost tripling humans at the moment. But in the same time, 1 in 3 breaches now involve IoT or connected devices. And attackers, of course, are getting more sophisticated because they're using the smart tools as well. I mean, the intelligent tools as well. And sadly, the average consumer is still, not paying attention or choosing to still just care so much more about convenience than the implications of what's is happening or the information we are giving out versus what convenience we are getting back from these devices and tools. So also between January and October 2025, there were a reported 13.6 billion attacks, IoT attacks that were detected. Not all of them were harmful, thank goodness, but they were attempts. So we need to pay attention to that as well. Then here we have what it looks like when governance lags and risks and consequences follow. So we have a couple of examples of at-home risks and consequence. So I was speaking about
Sorry, Pam. Can I ask you one question before we go into the governance part, because that's like a different topic segue. You said something about device when you in your title you said IoT identity. So were you thinking about identity of the device itself? Because one of the things I've learned about IoT is we can learn what we learn, but when it comes to real life, there's never one IoT device, right? There's hundreds of devices, thousands of deployment in hospitals, in industry, anywhere, right? And then the identity of the device becomes a problem because that particular device can be compromised for security, or it might have an OS version that needs upgrade, or it might just lose battery power, and it's like a whole DevOps problem. So can you talk a little bit about that before we come to the big picture of governance?
Yes.
Thank you.
That is such a great question. Identity is pretty much where you start when it comes to this. And just even to speak to your example, Sudha, of just having thousands of IoT devices, especially when you're talking about in industry, manufacturing and so on, there can be thousands and thousands of devices connected back to a system. So I want to use an example to explain this a little bit. So there was an attack that happened in 2024 in the United States where the healthcare system was hit by hackers. Okay, so this was a attack on a big healthcare system that pretty much processes most of the payments that the healthcare industry, doctors use this as a processing for payments, and insurance comes through this. They control about, I don't want to mention who they are, but they control about a third of all transactions, but it's very easy to find it if you look it up. But this happened in 2024, and the way the hackers were able to get into the system is they pretty much found a edge device, which was like a forgotten, how you upgrade systems and you have a legacy device that nobody pays or remembers exists. So this device was still connected to the network, and the hackers were able to exploit that to get into the hospital system, the network for this payment processor, medical healthcare payment processor. And they were in the environment and in the hospital, in the medical payment system for 9 days. And in those 9 days, they just gathered up all of their data, all of personal PII information, which is, private, protected information about for the patients. And they gathered all that information. It was terabytes of data. Then they just ran a ransomware attack. So they locked down the whole system. It led to trillions, it's over $2 trillion of dollars of damages across the board when that whole thing was resolved. And the ransomware attackers ended up getting paid about 2 billion. So as you can tell, this is an issue because that's where identity comes in. That device pretty much had no identity in the system, cannot be found. It was invisible. So meaning that there was nobody, it wasn't being logged. Nobody could see it in the system, and therefore it was treated as non-existent. And to make things even worse is with AI. AI is mostly works as software. And the way identity works with physical devices versus software is very different. And you can put, like in my industry, when you add a device to a system, you assign it identity, device ID, and so on. But right now with agents, they're just being deployed, and then they end up carrying permissions from the device itself, from a physical device, using the permissions from the physical device to get into other systems. And actually, a good example is this consumer robotic that Alias Robotics were able to discover. They were doing research and they discovered 38 vulnerabilities across 3 consumer robots, where, for instance, a lawnmower was using shared credentials, and they were able to access actually the full network of everybody that owned this particular lawnmower robot. They were able to see their device, access their data through, because it was sharing credentials, because the AI component did not have an identity. So the identity was using was the identity of the device, if that makes sense. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, I love that, Pam, that you mentioned the identity, what you call a shared identity, agentic AI, actually even more, right? They actually has the real human credential to impersonate. That's very prevalent now. And so something happened, you don't know because there's no audit trail, because it's still thinking that is the human there. And also because, there many challenges come with it, because for data store, we're supposed to scrub the person, personal information and privacy, and there are for what you call convenient, like what you said before, people forgot that there are consequences. So I love this conversation that you brought up with actual data and actual example. Do you have any example for the latest, not just the device itself, but human cost issue when they use AI in the wrong way? I'm sure you have a ton.
Oh, yes, it's all I do all day. There's so many different examples. There was actually, I believe it was last year. So you know how you can go on Claude or ChatGPT and you ask it all kinds of questions. You upload your birth certificate and all of the information, all of your private information. Some people have already done this to, save them time, like for instance, asking lawyer questions and, advice on things, which is great. But what happens is, that information was not set, was set as discoverable. And what that means is people just Googling randomly could discover your information online because it was almost like how you can go on Google and look up information and it just discovers, whatever is related to that topic you're looking for. So then you would be added into that list. And this is your private data now that was being leaked out. I believe that was resolved, but this is just an example of how we have, just loosened up and it's almost as if we don't ever think this could happen to us until it happens to us. So that's just one example of, how we are feeding AI all of our information, not looking at the privacy statements, not looking at what is being distributed out when we do this, and just, hoping for the best, you know. Yeah, and another example is this Meta smart glasses, where, you buy these smart glasses and you're wearing them around your house. And it was discovered through a Swedish company that they discovered that the human workers who were hired by Meta in Kenya to review this data from the smart glasses could see, people walking around their houses, naked and, unclothed. And the people wearing the eyeglasses did not know this information was being accessed. So there's so many examples. I'm not going to go to every particular one unless there's anyone who has a question about any of these, just to save on time. But these two, the red ones are at home examples, and the yellow colored ones are more at work examples. But this is a very small snapshot of thousands and thousands upon thousands. Actually, I really struggled to decide what to put in here because there was so many different ones I could have used. All right, Roxy, any other questions? I can go on.
I think many of us actually in this collaborative powerhouse here, many of us actually brought up healthcare, and you gave an example about the hospital that have an issue. As someone, many of us will likely create even more product that AI, leveraging AI. One is the one takeaway or recommendation you want to share with all of us so that we can say, always listen to this message from Pam. Pam say this when we build, right? As to me, researcher is responsible for all the participant privacy and their health, make sure they feel better and do better. But their privacy is so important to keep it. What is the one thing you will share with us and say, hey, make sure you think this when you build that?
I'm going to share one thing, although I'm going to address it on another slide, but I'm going to share just one thing. The biggest thing is trust. Beyond identity, I think trust is the most important thing, just the same way that as a human, you have to have a relationship before you can trust another person. You can love everyone, but don't trust everybody. So you have to have the same prudence. We kind of have this idea that because of so far technology hasn't been intelligent, we don't think it can, it can harm us to the extent that it can be devastating, although there are examples of that, sadly. But I think the biggest thing to take away is trust. Trust is the biggest thing. Don't trust anything. Trust is important. You have to verify first before you trust. Even someone calling you on the phone now, for instance, this voice clone fraud, you have to be able to trust that the person you're speaking to is really the person you're speaking to. When you're talking about looking at deep fakes, I mean, we're going, all of us still living in different countries. A lot of us have elections. How are we going to be able to tell when the person speaking is a person that, how are we going to be able to tell that's a person that the person we are looking at is actually a real person and not just a computer-generated video of the person. So that's kind of what I would say, Roxy.
Thanks so much.
You're so welcome. All right. Then, I mean, we've talked about this already. So we've talked about identity. Do not trust just what the interface says. Make sure everything is visible. Make sure, and by visible, I mean, even in your home, don't leave things connected if they're connected to the internet and just think you're okay. If you're not using them, disconnect them. Disconnect them. Make sure you pay attention to things like that, because the other thing that's also happening is these hackers are not just actively always online, trying to hack individuals. They have bots out on the internet, which all they do is just look for vulnerabilities on their own. So they don't need a human behind sitting somewhere trying to find ways to exploit your system. These are just now bots just moving through the internet. And if your device is unsecure and is still connected, that's a vulnerability into your space that you don't even know exists. And they can sit there for years. They can sit on your system for years until they get what they want and then issue an attack. So of course, we've also talked about trust. Just because something looks familiar, don't trust it, because you're looking at it and going, oh, that looks like my dad, and so on. Trust, is important, that we actually verify what we're looking at is really what we're looking at. What we're hearing is what we're really hearing, and so on. Don't just rush into convenience. Convenience is good, and we want these things to improve our lives, but we also want to be responsible as we adapt these things, right? Last but not least, we have to think about control. How, if something happened, how can this be stopped? How can it be contained? How long will it take me to recover? Like, once my information is leaked out there, what is going to get leaked? You have to think about these things. And I know it's a lot. It sounds like, I already have a full-time job. I have children. Now you want me to think about the devices. So, it's a lot, but, again, either you could have someone help you figure this out, or just do it in chunks, a little bit at a time, okay? It's not a one day and done thing, okay? And then just remember, at the end of the day, ownership is important. So we all have to be accountable. We have to own the risk, because even if a company is at fault, I'll give you a really quick example. Most of us, if you've lived in the US, have received a letter at one point or another saying, sorry, we leaked your information. So, we had a data breach, and all they can offer you is to help you monitor your system, monitor your credit report for a little while. So we have to be a little bit more aware about that, because it could be tragic and the losses could be huge. All right, I have kind of run out of time, so I'm just going to really brush over this unless there's questions. Practical guardrails, this is what Roxanne was asking. Roxy, sorry, was asking. So we have to verify every actor. We have to verify all devices, have multi-factor authentication. If you don't know any of these terms, please reach out to me and I can help you. I just ran out of time, and I don't want to take up too much time. Create strong credentials, make sure that you limit your blast radius, you stay current, keep up to date. Turn off your laptops and turn them on. Don't leave them on for many days without doing so, because what you're doing is you're not allowing your computer to update, or set up a time when you can do the updates. Always have a human in the loop, and this is a time for community. Don't think you have to do this on your own. It's time to make connections. Like this forum is so important. Things like this are, valuable. Like they're so valuable. Stay connected to people, ask questions, and slowly but surely we will improve, because we cannot defeat AI with just one mind. We all have to be collective, have a mastermind. So thank you so much. This is one way to reach me. The best way to reach me is through LinkedIn, and that's my LinkedIn. You can reach me with questions, advice, and
Thank
so
you.
on.
Thank
And
you so
I
much,
really
Pam.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Pam. I know it's not easy being the last speaker before lunch. And what we ended up doing is, because we are going to run this Zoom continuously. So those who are staying here, you can stay on. And those who are coming in new, you're welcome to join the afternoon segment. The live stream, I think that cannot run for 8 hours. So what we are going to do is, after this, I'm going to stop this live stream and start the afternoon live stream. So if it makes time sense for you, please, continue to watch there or join here. I just wanted to let people know. What we are going to do is, what you see here on the screen, this QR code will go to the homepage for IoTWoman. And we are going to take a rest for a day and then come back and give you pointers to all the recording. You can go to all the live streams and watch it, but we want to just organize it. And I see last night I was at the Asia segment, and Padmini Rajan was talking about AIoT. And I'm seeing, Pam Cole here talk about IoT, and, there's a lot of overlap, but also it shows the rich experience, right? And that's why we are
Yeah.
celebrating IoT Day, because it's everywhere. It's so ubiquitous. So I liked how you said, let's start with the difference between IoT and AIoT, and it learns patterns and how it makes prediction. And we are going towards that. And it's applicable in certain industries. It's still not applicable in certain industries, right? IoT as a unit producing data creates value by itself. In fact, I have a AIoT course on one of my LinkedIn courses. And one of the things I make a difference is for people to know you can create value just from IoT. Now, by adding connectivity to something that was not connected, you can add value. And now if you take the data and you can do something with AI, that's a different kind of value. And if you
Absolutely.
actually bring AI from outside, put it on the edge and make edge AI, it's a different kind of value. So we've kind of evolved. So I like that history slide of yours, of where we have come from. All the different scary attacks you were showing us also was interesting, a good reminder too. So that was very helpful. So
Yeah, Sudha, I wanna call out you are on this journey for a long time, right? The IoT, when I was speaking at one of your class, that was the IoT back in 2016 or 17. That's a long time ago. Yeah.
2015, 16, I taught IoT at Stanford. Then I switched to
Yes.
autonomous vehicles, and then it went to AI.
And I remember the IoT, the value of IoT that you taught. So many, students joined, and they came back and share their learning. Excellent. It's a long journey that you've been doing this for a long time.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
I feel like one of the things that the other speaker Padmini was talking about was we started from IoT. It produces data, and then it led to training AI, and AI is everywhere now. AI is the big thing, but her thought process was AI needs IoT. It's not the other way around. Today, AI cannot just AI cannot fulfill its promise if it is not sitting on a device, if it's not on physical devices. That's why I liked Pam's presentation, focusing on device identity and safety and how to do things right, giving us advice as consumers, talking about her experience working with companies. It's beautiful. So I appreciate this.
Thank you.
So
Thanks.
I need to switch the live stream, guys, for those of you who are watching. This is your one place. There's a whole IoT home where you can, if there's a form, if you sign up, you could have got the Zoom link. You can still get the Zoom link. You'll get a reminder for the next session, that the second half running straight on the same Zoom. And also this will be your follow-up place for everything we're going to follow up from our speakers. Thank you so much, Pam. And I really appreciate your awesome session.
Enjoy your lunch.
Okay, we're not taking a lunch break. We're just going to switch
Oh.
to the other session.
We got trained for 9 years, right, Sudha?
We have not. No, I'm going to eat lunch by the side. It's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your
Yes, thank
team.
you.
It's amazing that what you guys have done. So thank you, for all the work you've done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Roxy, can I just turn this off and switch to?
Yes.